If there's something strange and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Live from across the plain, still struggling through Google Hangouts, comes the coolest guys you've ever met. Oops, wrong show. Comes the guys who may be weird, who may not be mainstream, and who may believe in things many might call crazy. But these guys are after the truth, and sometimes the truth is the craziest thing you've ever heard.
Mr. Mayor, come take a look at this.
Wow. Oh, what is it? Have you ever seen anything like that? Somebody get me the Globe Busters.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Globe Busters.
And welcome everybody to Globe Busters, Flat Earth, Debunking NASA CGI, and it is also our season finale. I am your host, Bob, Xanadude60, and we have another great show for you today. Got some debunking of NASA CGI images with fellow YouTuber ArcherSage, who will be with us, and also towards the end of the show we will have another update on the balloon launch with Victor Brewer, who had a spectacular balloon launch, and there's still more to come. So he's going to be filling us in on that, and so that ought to be really cool. So today, John the Morgile is not with us. He had some family issues to attend to, so you're stuck with just Jaren and I. So I'll go ahead and introduce Jarenism, my co-host. How you doing today, Jaren?
Doing good, Bob. Good morning. Morning to all the people in the chat. Thanks for watching. Hope everything's good with John. So talk to him soon. But hope everyone is doing well. I just saw in the chat Thomas Larson, and for a second I thought it said Tommy Laren. It's like, oh my God, I got to get on my best behavior. We're getting popped. But then I realized it's Thomas Larson. So Thomas, thought it was Tommy Laren, but no.
Oh well, close but no cigar. All right. So we have several things to talk about here. Like I said, ArcherSage will be coming on in the second hour. And there's a few things I wanted to show and then address. In this our season finale show. I think the reason that we're doing this is because I personally would like to take some weekends and go camping. Haven't had a chance to do that this year, and we'll be going to Hawaii in mid-July, and we'll be a couple weeks there. And of course, we will be back with the show at that time. Whatever the 15th or 16th, I think, that particular Sunday we'll be back, and I'll have some really interesting experiments to show you that I did on the plane ride out there with accelerometers and also our gyroscope, so that ought to be a lot of fun. So, all right, so let me jump right into this, and kind of want to go over a little bit about what happened at our Fort Collins meetup. Of course, as you know, last week on Tuesday, we had two separate meetups going on in Denver. The first one was, one was in Denver, two, I should say, in Colorado. The first meetup was in Denver, was a very big success. They had a great time there. I'm really happy to see this kind of stuff going on, because I think it's really important that flat earthers get together and kind of socialize and brainstorm on things on how we can get things done better and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think the meetups are great. We personally have met several really great people. We had a bunch of people over at our house yesterday, and just kind of did a picnic and talked about flat Earth, and just a lot of fun. It's nice to be able to talk to people that you can relate to, and because especially when I'm sure a lot of you people have experienced that you just don't have quite the same kind of friendships that you used to have with the people that not necessarily are seeing the flat Earth truth like we have seen. So it does make things a little bit difficult, but fortunately our community is growing at an incredibly rapid rate, so lots of friends to be made. So at the other meetup, which is the one that I went to at Fort Collins, ODD Reality actually went up there with us. He drove up there with us, and we had quite a turnout. It was like 45 people, something like that. Maybe even 50, I don't know, because there were stragglers going in and out. But anyway, we definitely had the entire room filled, and it was really a terrific meetup. We did have some strange things kind of happen during that. We had one guy that was in there. He came in there and he handed out a whole bunch of little black flash drives, right? And he came in and he said, well, you've taken the red pill, now you need to take the black pill. And he kept making these black pill references. And so I got kind of curious about what the black pill thing was all about. And so I looked it up, and it turns out that this black pill group is kind of like a bunch of nihilists that think that the world is just completely too far gone to even be saved, and they kind of support the terrorist attacks and stuff like that because they think that people should be punished. and it's like I was absolutely in disbelief. So anyway, when this guy comes in to the meetup and he hands out all these little black flash drives, I grabbed one, and he didn't want me to have one. He's like, no, Bob, we want these to go to everybody else. I don't really want you to have one or anything like that. And I thought that was suspicious. And of course the reason for that is when I ultimately looked at what was on there, he was calling out flat earthers and generally most of the people in the community as shills. And yet ironically, he had some really good truth-seeking information in his little black pills that was outstanding, to say the least. But for whatever reason, he disagrees with flat Earth, and so I don't know, just strange stuff like that. And that's something I think that we can probably expect, at a lot of these flat Earth meetups. And you probably want to look out for people like that because they'll be wanting to crash in, to distribute their own personal brand of message when they think they have the attention of a bunch of flat earthers. So it's just interesting that people will take advantage of these type of occasions to do stuff like this, and possibly disrupt it. Even maybe violently. I don't know, but it was really strange that he even turned up and did that. But anyway, so he took off, and we went on with the meeting, and I wound up talking for nearly 3 hours. And ODD, but I mean, I was pretty much the bucket mouth of the group. Cammie, ODD, and I were kind of at the front table, and we were fielding questions. And also at the Fort Collins meetup, we had a reporter there from the Denver Post, which is Denver's largest newspaper. And he was a really nice guy. I really liked the kid, and he's young. He is a Yale graduate. I think he's a Yale senior, possibly still a senior. He's still an intern for the Post. And he was up there, and he was just, writing up a storm the whole time that I was talking. And I got a chance to introduce myself to him at the break. And we talked a little bit, and I said, I hope that this write-up, that your editors will allow you to, keep this fair on the flat Earth, because obviously it's kind of the mainstream agenda to poo-poo on this. And he said that he was going to strive to be as fair as possible, but I said that don't be surprised if your editors don't let you do something like this or provide anything favorable. I'm hoping so, but I just don't know. It's something I don't know what to think about. But all in all, I was on my best behavior, and we all were, and the meeting was really a success. And I just, it was a lot of fun. But it was interesting that I couldn't believe that I actually got a reporter from Yale, from the Post, to sit there and listen to my rhetoric for almost 3 hours. That was pretty cool. So I guess when the write-up comes out, we'll see how I did, right? So
Yeah, it should be interesting to see. And I'm looking forward to getting together with some people too. It sounds like you guys are having a good time doing that. So hopefully we'll have something like that in the Bay Area soon.
yeah, and it really is. I mean, it's so nice to be able to meet, people of like minds. So, and a lot of really interesting things get discussed. I mean, people are very diverse in, their knowledge, and everybody has something to bring to the table. And this is one of the greatest things about this. So, I really dig it. So, anyway, so that all in all, I would say that the Fort Collins meetup was absolutely a success. We had some wonderful people there that that were over at our house yesterday. That she made some beautiful donation boxes, for the Flat Earth billboard that the Fort Collins group is promoting, and I've got it up here on the screen now, the GoFundMe account for Flat Earth Colorado, and this is basically, to fund another billboard, just like have been done in a few other cities that IPS has gotten behind. And I think that billboards are a great idea. I think they're a great way to get the message out. It was because of the billboard in Philadelphia, I believe, that kind of sparked the interest of the Denver Post, and the media in general, wanting to know what's going on with these flat Earth billboards. And so the more of them we get up, the more possibility I think that we're going to have of mainstream interest in it, which is exactly what we want to do. So I'm all for promoting these things and getting behind them. I think they're definitely worthwhile. And if we crowdfund them, it's really just a little bit of money to each of us. So I certainly have donated, and I will support these things personally because I just think it's a great idea. So, okay, so we will move on for that. Now, next thing we have is... all right, Archer. Anyway, next thing we have is another Flat Earth meetup that is going to be taking place on July 11th in Denver, Colorado. And I want to get this plugged now a lot because obviously we're not going to be online for the next couple weeks. So I definitely want people to make a note of this. We'll be plugging it through Mark Sargent's channel, and we may even mirror up another advertisement for it. But in Denver, the same exact place as was last time for the July 11th meetup. And hopefully we'll have a lot better turnout this time, considering we won't be running two meetups simultaneously. So this particular place is right down off of Havana and Florida. It's about a half a block south of Florida at 1555 South Havana Street. And it's called Gibby's Big Backyard, and they have volleyball there and all kinds of neat stuff, and lots of room for people to spread out and talk, and it's not too loud or anything like that, so people can actually hear each other. So if you are in Denver, in the Denver area, by all means make this. I will be there. I'm pretty sure ODD will be there, and we're going to try and get a hold of everybody that we know in the Colorado community to try and make a really good showing at this place. And have a great time, because again, everybody has nothing but a lot of fun at these places. And so if you want to, the guy that is setting this up, he would appreciate an RSVP. I don't know if it's 100% necessary, but he would appreciate an RSVP. And his email is flatearthisreal.getwoke@gmail.com. I've got it here on the display. Oh, no, I don't. You know what? That was terrible. I was not even screen sharing that. I am so sorry, people. All right, so let me go back. Let me show this for now. The Flat Earth is real getwoke@gmail.com for this. And let me back up also to the fundraiser page that I was showing, the GoFundMe /Flat Earth Colorado for the billboard. And yeah, okay, and that's how I think we really need to go there about that. So, and again, it is at Gibby's Big Backyard at 1555 South Havana and in Aurora. So, whoops. I know, I just changed it. Yeah, Cammie just came up and told me that my screen was on Globebusters. So, sorry guys, senior moment. All right, so any comment on anything like that before we move forward, Jern?
Nope, nothing yet.
All right, so far so good. So the next thing that I want to talk about, many of you know that Flat Earth Asshole Jake has been going all over the country. I believe last night he was in Atlantic City, and I don't know how that turned out yet because he hasn't posted a video to my knowledge, or if he has, I just haven't seen it yet. And then the very last city on his tour is going to be Denver, Colorado, which is on the 28th of June, which I believe is Wednesday night. Location and time to be determined, but rest assured we will be getting the word out via Facebook, possibly mirroring something on this channel, Mark Sargent's channel, Jake Flat Earth Asshole's channel, for where we are going to be meeting up and exactly what time. But I think it's going to be around, I don't know, 7:30, maybe a little bit early. I really don't know. That's all in Jake's corner to do that. But we have a lot of people that have requested that Jake come to Denver, and we're going to give him a really warm welcome. So it ought to be a lot of fun. So if you have wanted to shake hands with Jake and Rusty, definitely keep the 28th open, and we will be updating everybody as far as the location and time as to where he is going to be. So there you go. All right, now that's all I have as far as announcements for things that are going on in the community. All right, so now I want to discuss something, and guys, it bothers me that we have to talk about this. But you know what? Before we talk about the negative part of this, I'm going to show you guys a new video that just came out the 23rd, which, yeah, 2 days ago. Now, I want to tell you something about this guy. His name is Andrew. He goes by the name Friend of Yahweh. Andrew is the guy that many of you will remember. We did a show where, well, Jaron had been going on kind of a tear about how there was no 24-hour Antarctic video, no Antarctic suns, because they kept cutting 8 to 10 hours out of every bit of footage. And so in response, Andrew, a Friend of Yahweh, made the response video of he played the Antarctic scientist who went down there with a team of NASA photographers and took 360 shots of the sun, and of course it was all CGI and completely farce. It was meant as a joke to kind of poke fun at, you know, the fact that we get CGI in every way, shape, and form. And if you don't remember that, you know, go to his channel and check it out. It was absolutely hilarious. It was done absolutely, I believe, with the best of intentions. Andrew does have a background as a filmmaker and a producer. I'm sure he has an IMDb page. Of course, I think a lot of Flat Earthers do, just because of the fact that they make Flat Earth content. Now, whether or not this makes them a good guy or a bad guy, well, I think that, you know, like many things, you have to judge the content by its merits, and anything else, leave it behind. So I'm going to show this video that he put out, and frankly, I think it is absolutely hilarious. Everybody in the community that saw it, especially, you know, some of the bigger names in the community, loved it. Myself, Jaron, John the Morgile, pretty much everybody. And, you know, it was appreciated for what it was. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to play this and let you guys hear it. And then we're going to talk about a response that was made to that by Russian Vids. But before that, let's look at this video for its merits and, you know, what it was intended for. And that's basically poking fun at the elite about their nonsense that actually goes on. So I'm going to play this right now, and let's give it a listen, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more afterwards. So here we go.
Are you an elite? Are your staged attacks not going as planned? Are your globalist agendas failing because you're using subpar crisis actors? Well, then look no further. Hi, I'm Harrison Hanks, the ultimate crisis actor. Need a medical doctor? In 18 years as a medical examiner, I've never seen anything like it. Yeah.
Is this one over the top? Is this one different?
Yeah, it's over the top. 33 children died. You need a grieving husband? Did a right-winger set off a bomb? Right, yeah, we're just milling about over there. Had a massive explosion. And I'm your man. Tired of melodramatic acting?
There's light away from the darkness.
I'm just trying to figure out if he's okay.
I lost my 20-year-old, but I had 20 years with my son.
It's just tragedy, horror, and tragedy.
Or maybe you need me to tone down my good acting to match your sorry lot of wannabes. In that case, I can go from this. My name is Bobby Palmer. My family's one of the families that lost a child. To this. My name is Bobby Palmer. And my family's one of the families that lost a child. Going for the guns takes subtlety, like this. I don't know how many more need to die before the president does something. Not this.
And please, could we do something with the assault weapons?
And every one of those hands is a reason why those weapons should not be out in the general public.
Because in this kind of a situation, what has changed? Have we learned nothing?
Tired of green screen mishaps and disappearing noses? Me too.
Is there anything else you want to say?
I'm green screen ready, bonded, and insured. I can morph into 1,000 different faces. I offer reasonable rates, and I have no conscience. Just pick your card to play on the world stage.
From homeless to police officer, from doctor to witness, to your ace card, the grieving father.
You can count on Harrison Hanks to push through your agenda. Regain their trust. Call Harrison Hanks for all your crisis needs. Thank you, and good luck.
All right, so there we go. When I saw this, I absolutely broke up laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I was one of the first people to leave a comment on it, and I'll read my comment here. Oh my God, Andrew, that was priceless. You do realize that I'm going to have to play this on Globebusters, don't you? You are almost too good at the crisis actor bit. Of course, you are also really good as an Antarctic scientist. I wouldn't be surprised if someone in a dark suit offers you 6 figures, LOL. Thanks for another great laugh, okay? And that stood there just fine until, well, basically, that stood there, and then many other flat earthers chimed in and said that it was absolutely fabulous. Until Russian Vids, apparently, I guess, so is it today? Just today they did it? Yeah, the 25th. So he puts out a video on this, and first of all, let me say that I like Russian Vids, right? He does some great work. There are a few things that he puts out that I don't necessarily agree with, that I believe are a little bit over the top, and I'll explain that, you know, why I believe that. But Russian Vids basically came out, and in his video, he is saying that, well, you know, this guy, the problem with him is he's trying to, you know, get everybody on his side for whatever, some nefarious agenda, which I don't get at all. But because of the fact that he has created some movies, he has been a producer, director, possibly even an actor in some of these things. Does he have a Hollywood background? Well, apparently he does. Great. So, well, so does Math Powerland, right? Does it mean necessarily automatically that just because somebody has worked in Hollywood that they're automatically here to infiltrate the community? I don't think so. And again, as Jaron and I have said many times, you have got to take what resonates, what works for you, and leave the rest behind. Frankly, I think the particular piece that he just did, this Crisis Actors, was hilarious. I think it's very effective at poking and exposing the elite's ridiculous crisis actors, and it was just funny. It was very funny and very effective, as was his piece for Jaron about the Antarctic sun. So anyway, so I was really kind of disappointed in this. I mean, Russian Vids obviously has his opinion on him, and you know, he has pointed out, he has made his case by simply saying that yes, Andrew Lanks has been a director, assistant director. He lives in Austin, Texas, which apparently he's even entered some contest that prison planet hatter Alex Jones, some entry, whatever. Great, that's fine. Does this mean, again, that he's a shill? Well, I don't think so, but then I don't know. I haven't seen what the content was, and again, even if I did, I would judge it by its own merits. I mean, if it was something that was saying, ha ha ha, you flat earthers are a bunch of morons, and, you know, you have to follow the mainstream line or whatever, obviously I would take exception to that, but I don't see anything nefarious going on here. And yes, I understand that Russian Vids has his point of view, and he is absolutely welcome to it. You know, Russian Vids has also made a lot of videos about transgenders, and maybe it's true. Maybe a lot of people in Hollywood are transgenders. If so, great. What does it have to do with Flat Earth? Well, I don't think anything, but whatever. You know, sometimes we go astray and we cover things that aren't necessarily Flat Earth either. But it's just interesting news items to kind of point out where the world is going, what direction that it's going, and oftentimes it shows that we're kind of headed in a sorry direction. But so Russian Vids offers up all this evidence, you know, like here he is, here's Andrew Links offering up something into a contest that Alex Jones sponsored. Again, I don't know what it is, but I'll probably look into it just to see. But again, I don't believe necessarily that just because this guy has a Hollywood background that he is here to infiltrate the community. And honestly, you know, I think that kind of mentality is ridiculous. That anybody automatically has any association or any past history with Freemasonry, like you know, IPS has stated, or anybody that has any background that even might even remotely relate or has a family member related to Freemasons, does it automatically make them a shill? No, don't be ridiculous. And also, you know, start thinking about, you know, the content. Look at what's being presented. I did not see anything in any of the videos that I've ever seen by Friend of Yahweh / Andrew Links that leads me to believe that he is a shill. And frankly, you know, the mentality that has been displayed by Russian Vids expressing his opinion, and yes, he's giving his reasons and his evidence, and that's fine. Do I agree with it? No, not necessarily. I don't. I mean, there may be something to it, but honestly, I haven't looked far enough into it. But from what I have seen of this guy so far, I don't see a problem with him. All right. We also, you know, we have other people in our community that are causing 10 times the amount of trouble and division, and yet we don't ever see anything going on about that. And honestly, I never wanted to make Globebusters about any of this because the drama it makes me sick. But I also don't think that this was necessarily a fair evaluation by Russian Vids. Does it mean I'm going to stop following Russian Vids? No, not at all, because I think that probably 90% of everything that he puts out is really good. In this particular instance, I do disagree with him, and I hope that he allows me that space to be able to disagree with him and not see eye to eye, and you know, and let that be that. But as to the rest of you people that saw this video and came and basically attacked our chat, sent me, you know, tons of comments about it, commented in Friend of Yahweh's videos, you know, calling us shills and Mason backers, and, you know, that we've chosen the wrong side. Get real. I mean, my God, you know, people worry about flat earthers looking stupid. This is what makes flat earthers look stupid. Is you get into this ridiculous mentality, this group herd mentality, and you are absolutely no better off and no better whatsoever than the people that we're trying to fight against. I mean, Jesus, if you want to tear apart this community, keep this behavior up, right? This is so stupid now because, you know, we've made a comment, or Rob Skiba made a comment, or anybody that's on here. Now everybody's going to them saying, oh, you guys are all shill. There's Mark Sargent, there's Jern, there's Morgile, there's Celebrate Truth. And the response to this is so puerile and irresponsible and ridiculous. Frankly, you people can just unsubscribe from this channel and go away. I don't even want to deal with people like you. This mentality is absolutely retarded, and it's ridiculous. Now, maybe something is going on with Andrew. I tend to doubt it, but, you know, none of you knew any better whatsoever until Russian Vids came out with this piece, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, he's got a Hollywood background. Let's get on our freaking bandwagon and act like stupid, idiotic flat earthers that are carrying on this herd mentality, and let's just burn down our whole damn community. Is that what you people really want to do? I mean, get real. This is over the top stupid, and I am absolutely disappointed in the believers of this. And yes, Oz, no, I didn't say anything about fuck this guy, so quit putting words in my mouth. I'm saying, yes, he has his opinion. I don't agree with it, so don't stop putting words in my mouth, dude. Because this, once again, is just absolutely ridiculous that it's happening. And no, I'm not going to relax, because I think that this is a big problem in the community. We're tearing ourselves apart from the inside out. Don't you people see this? I mean, 1 minute we have, Patricia Steer is a shill, Mark Sargent's a shill, Patricia's a transgender. And let me show you where this type of idiotic thinking leads to. So here we go. Many of you may recognize my wife, right? Who, Cammie, is a beautiful woman. She, we have 3 kids. I've been in the delivery room with her when, the baby, when Jaren was delivered. She's woman 100%. But here we have some clown conspiracies by Hans, talking about my wife being a transgender, right? And also me. I'm a transgender. She's a transgender. And where did all this ridiculous, retarded mindset come from? Well, I hate to say it, but and this is something that Russian Vids has been pushing, and he may be very well right, but unfortunately when people take it to this level, it just completely goes over the top. This is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen in my life. I've been married to this woman for 17 years. We have kids together, and to see people pile onto this bandwagon about Cammie being a man or Patricia being a man, it's like, get real. Even if it was true, which it isn't, what business and what difference does it make to the community? If these people are in here and they're helping the Flat Earth movement and they're helping further our cause, then we should be supporting them instead of just going on with these utterly ridiculous accusations. And I'm sick of it, honestly. And this is another reason why I want to take a little bit of time away from this, because this community just gets completely ridiculous sometimes. And this is where this herd mentality comes from. We talk about the Globers just following blindly like cattle. Well, you know what? The Flat Earthers are doing the exact same thing, and it's got to stop. It absolutely has got to stop. We've got to stop calling everybody a shill, for whatever reason. And, I'm just done. I'm done with it. I am not going to deal with this anymore. And anybody that keeps pressing this ridiculous agenda, just unsub from our channel if you're not banned, because I don't want anything to do with this. And this is all I really want to say about this. But damn, people, come on. And I'm sorry, Jaren, for ranting, but if you have any comments, go ahead.
No problem, Mike. You're right on, and I rant all the time, so I know how it goes. But to me, it's ridiculous that we can't even have anybody who's had a past, is what it seems like to me, in this whole thing. For instance, I grew up Catholic, and my parents sent me to a Jesuit high school. It was at the time $6,000 a year. I think now it's like $25,000 a year to go to that same school. And I think it showed me so much that was important to my realization of the lies that have been told to me, and being in that Jesuit education and seeing that they played both sides taught me a lot about the Jesuits, and that it helped formed my opinion of things. Like, they don't care whether you fall in line with religion or fall in line with science, because in either avenue you're trapped, and you are basically following the words of men, which is, in my opinion, the worst thing that you can do. So I see all the time people say, Jaren's a shill because he's a Jesuit, he's Jesuit trained, and I went to a Jesuit high school. Many people did. In fact, many colleges are Jesuit run. And so it's like, you can't even have had a past that you may have helped form who you are. So when we're talking about Friend of Yahweh, perhaps he worked in Hollywood. Perhaps he made videos. Perhaps he understands the way that they do things and the green screening. And so he took that, made an awesome video that exposes these people, these elite, for who they are and how they must think of things and how they must go out and look for these actors to play these parts. And what he's saying is, you're look at these terrible actors you're using. I actually thought when I saw that, like, oh man, I can't wait for Russian Vids to do a video on this, but totally thinking that he would love it, because I thought this is exactly what Russian Vids has been pointing out. And now this guy did an awesome job of bringing it together in a short form to show these people for exactly who they are. And he does a good job of playing 10 different parts in this video, or at least putting on a costume for 10 different parts.
Yeah.
I think it absolutely exposes the elite, shows them for who they are. It's the kind of video that you might share with maybe family or friends that you wouldn't otherwise share a flat earth video, because it's one of those things that kind of wakes people up a little bit to what's going on around them. And maybe it's that first step, kind of like 9/11 is for a lot of us. Same kind of thing. I mean, it's not easy just to tell somebody, hey, these the last 6 terror events or whatever, who knows how many goes back, but you can't just tell somebody, hey, the last 6 terror events are government sanctioned, made for TV scripts. And something like this helps get that across in an easier way, in a shorter fashion, where somebody can start to see the truth. So for me, I don't see any problem with it. Again, like you said, yeah, I'll watch Russian Vid's video, and I like a lot of his stuff, and I'll go through and see if he points out any reason why we should doubt this guy. But it's not like he found some secret account of this guy, or it's obviously him. He even has his picture in the as the avatar. So it's not like he's hiding this or anything like that. So just like I'm not hiding, nobody went out and researched and said, oh, Jaron, we found out that he went to this Jesuit high school. I've admitted that from day one. That's my schooling history. So, I mean, when we're finding things like this about people, it seems like you can't, I mean, let's look at what has happened because of ODD. And I think what people fail to realize is that, are we talking about something that somebody did yesterday, or are we talking about something that somebody did in their past? You know, if I'm going on, and then you find out that I also work at a Jesuit, seminary or something 3 days a week, well, that's a problem, right? You know, I can't be making the videos I'm making and then also be working for the Jesuits. That's a problem. And so there's a lot of people who don't see that the whole point of life is people make mistakes and then they correct them. And sometimes you've made a mistake so big that I don't think you have you don't have the right to get to correct them. Meaning, if you kill somebody, or if you rape somebody, or something like that, and you don't do your time, or you don't, I just feel like people need to have an opportunity to correct things. But I do think there's some things that are not correctable. If you kill somebody, then I do think probably you should be in jail for your life, and you kind of ruined your chance to show that you can, survive with a society and move on. But I think other things where you maybe made a mistake, like ODD when you're 17 and you live up to it, or I don't necessarily call my high school career a mistake. Obviously, it cost my parents a lot of money that got kind of thrown down the drain. It didn't send me to some prestigious college like it was supposed to. But at the same time, I think you look at like B.O.B., for instance, and I feel like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. The poor guy, he doesn't even have a label that will pick up his music, because he knows what is involved in having a label, which means you basically work for the industry, and that's how you end up with all the occult symbology and everything in your music and in your videos, and how they've ultimately got control of your lyrics. And that's when we see the kind of videos that we see from Katy Perry or Beyonce or whatever. So when you're talking about B.O.B., somebody who said, no, I'm not going to go down that road, I'm going to make my own label, which he's done, and puts out music, and then it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he doesn't, I've seen him he put out those free mixtapes, which were like 4 CDs that anybody else in the world who's a music artist would sell. And he put them out for free, and people said, oh, he's a shill because he's putting them out for free. Yet if he would have charged for them, which, again, he's not making money like hand over fist like other artists are, if he would have charged for them, then he'd be called a shill because he's charging for them. So it's like we have to look at each individual thing and look at what they're doing, and take it for what it's worth. I mean, for me, that video by Andrew Lanks is very good. And I thought it pointed out exactly what we want to point out. Just like I think some of B.O.B.'s music is very good. It points out the lies, Let's Get Scientific, those other songs like that, Flatline, are all great. And I think that they show some of the things we're trying to show. That's why I don't ever have a problem with Russian Vids, because while I don't agree with some of the stuff he does, on the on one level, I can recognize him as, number one, being a truth seeker, number two, being a good guy. And those two things combined to me is enough, that we're talking about the same things. Whether or not we have different religious beliefs, or whether or not we have the same beliefs about somebody being a female or a male, it doesn't matter. Those things are unimportant in the whole gist of moving this kind of truth movement forward. And I feel like you said it perfect, Bob, that this is the kind of thing I think that is going to forever hold us back if we don't get over it. And I mean by that I was talking to IPS the other night on his show, and I brought up the fact that if there were somebody who had a lot of money out there and who saw the kind of things that we're doing, because I do think there's some ways that we can prove this flat earth thing immediately. If anybody were to ever come up with, and I'll just throw a number out there, $10 million. Okay, if somebody were to come forward, and that sounds like a crazy amount to anybody, except for if you're a billionaire. And if you're a billionaire, $10 million, if you believe in something and you're looking into it and you say, this is really interesting, and I either want to prove this one way or the other. Let's nip this in the bud to where there's a provable way of doing it. So that person comes with $10 million and they're ready to invest that into a community of people who are all going for the truth. But I mean, honestly, if I was a billionaire and I came and looked at this flat earth and from an outside perspective thought about dropping like $10 million on some sort of a test or experiment, and I saw what was going on, I think I would just turn around and walk away. I think that I would not be impressed at all with a group that between each other can't just see that you have the same objective. I was talking to IPS and I was saying, Bill Nye will never throw Neil deGrasse under the bus. Okay, even though they may have very different opinions on different aspects, and Lawrence Krauss might have a different opinion of how the Big Bang went down than Neil deGrasse. They all might have different opinions, but they work for the same team. Now, granted, they're the team that I am going against. But what I'm saying is they've at least learned that you have to kind of work as a cohesive group. That's how you move forward. I mean, if science came out and said, okay, we think this thing is true, and then you've got this group over here saying, no, that's bullshit, and you got this scientific group saying, no, that's bullshit, and then all of a sudden you would hurt the name of science. It's kind of what's happened with the whole climate change thing, which has really damaged science. So is these frauds that have come out in the peer-reviewed journals. And that was eventually going to happen because they couldn't hold on forever with their nonsense. But what I'm saying is we have to see what they did well, which was move as a cohesive group. And yeah, do we agree that, Einstein was full of it, and that the scientific body basically propelled themselves forward through him, and rather than to just shun him, and some people agree, some people don't know. They moved science forward by agreeing with him moving forward. I don't agree with that particular move, but I'm saying as flat earthers, I feel like we could at least realize that there's going to be different opinions on different aspects. It's going to happen. And what we're all trying to do is push the exposing of the lie, of NASA, of mainstream science, of astronomy, push that, and then we're going to be able to get to the bottom of it. But if somebody is doing something out of line, if somebody is, like I said, working for the Jesuits on the side, then you call that out. That's fine. So I've got to watch. I haven't seen Russian Vid's review of this yet. So I'll watch it and see if he's pointing out some good things. Is this guy, Andrew, also working right now in the industry? Which even if he was, I'm still like, well, here's somebody working in the industry exposing the industry for what it is. And I would assume that's not a very safe thing to do. I haven't seen anybody else do these kind of videos where they're actually making fun of crisis actors. I thought it was kind of unique. It was the first time I'd seen somebody do something that needed to be done. So, what was that? Okay. So anyway, time's up. You talked too long. No. So, that's just the whole thing. Is to me, I think it was a good video. I think it exposes the elites for what they're doing. I think it shows it well. I thought it was well done, well written, if you will. And, as somebody who's learning to make videos, I look at the quality of the video and kind of am envious of like, oh, man, I want to learn to make videos like that are good and short and concise. And, so to me, I just don't see a problem with it. Maybe Russian Vids will change my mind. But I think if he doesn't, it's going to be kind of frustrating because it's going to be like, hey, here's somebody doing something good for the community of truth seekers. And by putting him down like was done, and I see all the comments already, that, are we just doing more damage than good when somebody made a good video like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just it, too. I mean, we don't all have to agree with each other to push forward our common cause. We believe that either the Earth is flat, or at the very least, we believe that it's certainly not a spinning ball, and we've talked about this a million times. The bottom line is we have all been lied to collectively by the powers that be, and of course people are going to have different takes on it. They're going to have different ideas about it. Does this mean that they're working for the opposition? Absolutely not. People complain about what IPS does, and because of the fact that he used to be a Mason, and so he's automatically a shill because of this or that, and he's mobilizing people. Well, you know what? IPS, I'll say this about IPS. He has done more in the way of getting things done in this community. I mean, he has been responsible for putting people together, getting these billboards up, making all kinds of activism, go on in this community. And whether you agree with his tactics or not, guys, he's one of us, right? His interest is in getting the word out about flat Earth. And whether you agree with his tactics or not, like I said, just go with what you like, go with what resonates, leave the rest behind, understand that everybody is going to do this a little bit different. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he does. Even IPS says he doesn't always agree with some of the things that he does. And when he realizes that, he changes it and does something different. That's great, and that's how everybody should operate. But, we even have disagreements with, certain things amongst ourselves at Globebusters on certain subjects. But the point is usually, we're able to get through that, obviously, and leave the bad stuff behind and just, not discuss it and move forward with what we think is important. And this is, the Flat Earth movement. There are other people. I mean, Eric Dubé, I don't agree with everything he says. I think there are some strange things about him. However, I also look at the body of work that he has put into Flat Earth, and, it's like, wow. It is massive, and it's huge, and it's made a big difference. And so, when you compare my objections, possibly about, the division he's caused in the community, well, when you compare that to the amount of good he's done, well, then maybe so, on that type of scale, he's not such a bad guy. He's actually overall done good work. And that goes for anybody. That goes for Mark Sargent. That goes for anybody, looking at Patricia Steer. Patricia Steer never claimed to be a flat earth expert. Patricia Steer puts on a show where she allows content producers to, be themselves, for people to be able to get to know them a little bit better, understand where their mindset is. That's what she's about. Does it mean she's a shill? Oh my God, no. I mean, and this whole battle that's going on, he said she said, and all these horrible things that are being said about all the different flat earthers, and even, between other flat earthers and what they've said about Globebusters. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to name any names specifically, but it happens, and it's just got to stop. Because if it doesn't, then we're going to tear ourselves and our community apart from the inside out. And that's the thing. That is exactly what they want us to do. And
right.
I'm not going to let that happen. I mean, I don't want that to happen, but, I'm just one person, with a voice out here, and I'm trying to appeal to people's reason and understand that, look, again, if you don't agree with everything, that doesn't make somebody an automatic Mason, shill, Jesuit, whatever. We have to work cohesively as a team, and if we don't, we might as well just stop right now, because we're never going to go anywhere.
I agree.
Hey, Bob, it's David. Hey, guys.
Hey, David.
Hey, I only got a couple minutes to chime in, but I want to chime in. First, I've recently been called out for being a man. I just don't even know how to respond to that.
For being a man?
Wait.
For being a man, yes.
I doubt that.
Yeah. So I don't even know what to say to that accusation, and so I'm just going to let it go. I just want to say, Andrew came onto the scene out of nowhere. He did that Antarctic video, which was hysterical, poking fun at the elite. I contacted him myself. We talked about other stuff. He did a video on me, on some of the stuff I did. He even called me out for a video I did that he didn't agree with, and he did it in a really great way. This other recent video, he told me he was going to do it. He previewed, he sent it to me, asked me if I thought there should be any edits. I gave him my 2 cents, and he put the video out. Thought it was hysterical. RV has a steadfast rule that if you are ever on InfoWars, you're a shill. Sophia Smallstorm has been on InfoWars. Wolfgang Halbig's been on InfoWars. Lots of people have. They're not on a lot because they get on once and they're never allowed back on. I just think he's a little too steadfast in that. And I also, you pointed out that nobody had a problem with Andrew's video until RV came out, and then everybody just followed like sheep. And we have to learn not to do that. And I'm even calling out Richie from Boston. He followed through too with his humble opinion that he thinks that Andrew is a shill. Well, if he's a shill, then I'm a shill.
Yeah. Well, we already knew you were a shill, David.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you look at my history. I'm Jewish now. I'm a man.
I'm gonna look. And you've been to a Jesuit high school. Pretty sure of it.
I don't know. Maybe I was. Who the heck knows? I'm hiding out. By the way, I've done several television commercials, so I'm a member of Hollywood.
Marking this down.
There you go. And I wrote a screenplay once, but nobody ever read it.
Well, there you go.
Driving home from Giants games, I used to always call into KMBR, the radio station, and talk, and probably was on 10, 15 times. So now I think about it, somebody somewhere has a recording of one of those, and so I'm in the radio industry, I guess.
Yeah. Just final note is, RV has done it before, and so has Richie from Boston. They've retracted their opinions based on new information. I hope they're listening. I hope they reconsider, and I hope they pull down their videos or at least amend them in some way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I hope they do, because again, like I said, I like Russian Vids. I followed him forever. I know that he follows us, and he even said, he goes, look, there's a lot of these people in here I really like, which I think is just about everybody in there. And, Russian Vids, we're willing to let you have your opinion on that. That's great. But you have to also take a little bit of responsibility in that, understanding that what you say is not really scrutinized well by a lot of people. They have a sheep mentality. Yes, flat earthers do have that. It's not just the ballers. There are so many flat earthers that have a minion mentality that it can cause damage, and we recognize that, and hopefully a lot of people will recognize that, content providers, that there's some really weird people out there. You say something and they're just like instantly your little minions, and they'll go out and cause damage and not even really realize what they're doing. And like I said, it's unfortunate that happens, but it does.
And I have to one more comment is, if I hadn't spoken with Andrew at length many times, I would have saw Russian Vid's video and would have been scratching my head going, maybe he has a point there, and might have followed him. But I've spoken with this guy. I've really looked into it. I've gotten better at judging people. And, in my humble opinion, Russian Vids and Richie are very, very wrong in this case.
Yeah.
And I even offered RV I was going to hook him up with Andrew and say, hey, let's have a conversation together. Haven't heard back yet, probably because he hasn't read his message. But, Russian Vids, I've spoken with him many times, and he is a reasonable guy. And, but he has a lot to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, people are allowed their own opinions too. I mean, we all have our opinions. I just choose, like, for instance, with Eric Dubay, like you said, he's done such good work in promoting the flat earth that for the most part, even though there's been accusations against us and things like that, I've never made a video. Here's my opinion of Eric Dubay, because I haven't seen anything that is really like earth shattering that I need to expose this guy, because he's actually talking flat earth, making good points. And so for now, you can call it laying in the weeds or whatever. I just don't think there's a need to destroy this movement before it even gets going. And people will out themselves if they're actually shills, if they're actually agents or whatever. That'll come out eventually. But for me, and I'm just basing this off emails I've received, and I wouldn't even say I'm stretching this number when I say 1,000 people, 1,000 different emails that I've received that talk about their kind of coming to the truth or coming to the realization based off seeing a few different people's videos. Many of them thought flat earth was ridiculous. Many of them went to work laughing about it the next day. But then throughout the next week or two, They saw things throughout in their life, on TV, in the real world, that made them start thinking like, wait a second. And they went back and started watching more videos. And then they say they went through a week or two of depression, or where they stayed up all night for 3 or 4 days in a row. And then they came out on the other side as flat earthers. The other thing I noticed about those people is that they are like me, that once you see it all, it's hard to go back. I mean, it would take proof. That's funny to say. It would take proof for me to believe in the ball earth. And we've been doing this 2.5 years and have not seen the kind of evidence that should be there for something that is taught to children before they're old enough to even think. And so I feel like anybody who's waking anybody up to the flat earth it's a great thing. So if Mark Sargent is a shill, well, what a terrible job he's done at being a shill, because all he's done is wake people up to the flat earth. Same thing with Patricia. Same thing with Eric Dubé. If any of these people were doing any kind of shill behavior, well, I think it backfired on whoever is behind it all, because they may be thinking, well, what we'll do is we'll lure all these people in, and then surprise, we'll do something and it will make them realize that their flat earth belief was ridiculous, which makes no sense because nobody believed in the flat earth to begin with. So what would be the point? Let's have everybody believe in the flat earth, and then we'll spring it on them that they actually live on a globe. Well, everybody already thought that. So you've done no good to anybody. But what has actually happened is, by waking people up to this flat earth, now those people require proof to go back to the globe. And guess what? It's not there. They can't find it. So what we've got now is we've got a group of people that are demanding proof, and that group is growing, believe me, every single day. More people are coming to this realization. More people are scrutinizing the things that we see from NASA and SpaceX, and that's only going to benefit us in the end. And again, I've said this 1,000 times, for me, in this movement, I feel like, I don't want to say I can do no wrong, but I feel like no matter what comes out of this, it's best for mankind. If I can prove what I think is the truth, which is that we've been lied to, that we don't live on a spinning ball in space, if I can prove that, then I've helped release mankind from the shackles of a deception. And if by doing this, the globe proves itself, then I think I contributed to the realization that we're teaching children incorrectly in schools, and that we are giving them things, calling them facts, but they don't actually have that real belief because they've never been shown the evidence that would be required for something to be believed as strongly as people believe in the globe. So for me, I think that, either way, we come out of this ahead as a human race. And it baffles me that people are so like it's a junior high, man. It seems like it's, little clicks, and this person can't, now let's all gang up on him. I don't know. I feel for like what Bob's saying, that I'm afraid that this thing gets knocked down by itself. And that's exactly what the elite want. I've said it a million times before. The word shill has done more damage than any group of 100 shills could ever have done to this movement.
Hey, I want to make one more comment, then I gotta jump. There's too many people in what some are calling the flappening to control them. There's just, you can't even control a small group of people that are in your general area, and there's too many people doing too many things. If you don't like something, just ignore it and do the opposite. Like, hey, I don't like what that person's doing. Well, then do the opposite. Use their energy to inspire you to do what's good. Instead of bitching about somebody, do the opposite. Do whatever you can to put out there. But I'm noticing a lot of shows are out there spending all of their time. Like, this was important to get this out because I believe Andrew is a friend of the show, a friend of the community, and an asset to the community. But do something to get out there. I have to tell you something. IPS, I spoke with him, and you said it earlier, Bob. Somebody commented on the show. He said, I don't like everything that you do. And IPS said, neither do I, and then he corrects himself. And that is the sign of a true truth seeker. He has inspired me to get off my ass and do more, to actually not care and to speak to more people. And I have. And it's been great. And he's inspired me to do more. So hats off to him and everybody else.
Yeah, I think he's awesome too. And he does change his mind, or at least he's open to, the other night I was talking to him, and I don't know what his belief is today, but I've heard him talk about Neil deGrasse and these guys before, saying that they are actors or whatever, and I just was voicing my opinion that I think they're more beneficial to the movement, to the science movement, if they're true believers. And he was totally open to it. Was like, yeah, you know what? When you think about it, he didn't know the curvature formula when he was on Rogan's show, and there's signs that tell you that no, he's just a person who thinks he's smart, and that the more you look at it, you're like, well, wait a second, isn't that more beneficial when you have true believers who are out there going and preaching your line rather than. And now, granted, many people out there might say, no, Jaron, you're way off here. He's an actor. He knows the gig. He knows the earth's flat. And you know what? I don't even mind if you have that opinion. I don't care. That's fine. I mean, I've said this 1,000 times, but do you really want to live in a world where we all think identically? I mean, that would be ridiculous. The great thing about life is hearing other people's opinions, being able to take other sides of view, other points of view, and then construct for yourself a definition of life or a meaning to life that makes sense to you with your realizations, with your observations in reality. And I feel like people are in this herd mentality where, like, Dirk just said, that they have to follow. And I feel bad for them because it's the way we were taught. We were taught that you sit in a classroom, listen to a teacher who gives you the truth, and you just repeat it on a test. So I feel bad for people because it's not their fault. That's how we were taught truth was handed out, that somebody speaks it and you believe it. That's what we were taught what truth was. And it's not. The biggest eye-opening moment of my life ever was when I realized I was being lied to across the board and said, that's it. I'm responsible for my beliefs. I'm responsible for whatever I consider to be the truth, and I can only hold myself responsible. So this way I can look at any video. I can watch anybody's opinion. I can I still watch mainstream science videos. I still watch InfoWars, stuff like that, because I can pull from that the things that resonate with me and leave the stuff that doesn't. And it feels so much better when you have a belief that is your own. And I feel like for people just to watch a Russian Vids video and say, oh, he doesn't like Friend of Yahweh, well, I'm going to go here and call everybody that commented on this video a shill. Those people are still not in the right mentality yet. They still are in the mentality that somebody speaks, that's the truth, and you just repeat it. They're not thinking for themselves, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, that is exactly what's going on. So, all right. So, I think we've made our point on this, people, and we're going to move on from this. But, I mean, again, just think for yourself, and don't be a minion. Don't be a minion. Think for yourself.
And don't be afraid of realizing that you're wrong and changing your opinion based on new information. That is all. We all make mistakes.
Yep.
Except maybe Jaron. All right, guys, have a good show. If I can jump on later, I will. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. All right, guys. So let's move on.
Whoever called him a man has clearly made a mistake.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Jaron.
Whoever called him a man has clearly made a mistake.
Right. I know. Well, when you watch that video of the, the transgender, the guy starts going into these details about how I have no neck and that makes me a woman. And I mean, he's got absolutely everything backwards. I mean, women are known for their long, sultry necks. And, I mean, he's a straight up idiot, but and we just laughed at it. In fact, we showed it to everybody at our party yesterday, and we all I thought Ace McLeod was going to split a gut laughing at it. And that's kind of where Cammie and I were with it. But, the flip side of that is it's so sad. It's like anything sells, and you can bring your minions to anything. So what do you do?
And I think the most obvious thing to me is, again, we've talked about the rice experiment before and how feelings, manifest throughout, the world. And I think when you're talking about like a transvestite, examination, whatever they call them, it's something that really can't be proven. Okay, you might find out that one girl is actually a guy or whatever. But the problem with it is the elite love nothing more than to put something out there that the community argues over, because that keeps the eyes off those on the top, that keeps the it keeps the division going between truth seekers or whatever. And that's all that a transvestite investigation will do, is it will create division between people who say, no, I disagree with that, and other people say, no, definitely that person's a guy. And it does no good for anybody except for exactly what the elite wants. That's who it does good for. And it's the same thing you see on the news at night, that when they have some particular shooting where a black guy gets shot by a white cop, and they create division because they know that there's going to be a line where some people are going to say, well, no, the cop, he should have shot that guy because he was doing it. And the other group's going to say, this cop does not have the right to shoot that guy. And what you've created there is division. And when you talk about these kind of things, saying so-and-so is a girl, saying Taylor Swift is a guy, all you're going to do, there's no way you're ever going to have 100% of people say, yep, that's true. So what you've done is you've created strife between the community. And of all people who should know that, it's the truth-seeking community. It's exactly what they did with 9/11. I mean, 16 years, what is it now, 17 years? Jeez. 16 years since that happened. And, the investigation, sure, it's gone somewhere. But really the reason it hasn't is because of the finger pointing and Judy Wood's a shill. Oh, it was space-based weaponry. No, it wasn't. It was nanothermite. No, it wasn't. It was controlled demolition. No, it wasn't. It was CGI. No, it wasn't. It was augmented reality. Whatever it is, all it did was it created division between people who all knew that we were fucking lied to. And that's the saddest part, is that that's what it became, is about, well, how were we lied to? And people forgot all about the fact that we were lied to. And I mean, that should be your main point. The media should have been outed. There should be nobody watching mainstream media, because they should see what happened on 9/11 and see, hey, you guys fed us a story and didn't report the news, which is your job. You're supposed to be reporting the news, not reading off a script that your bigwigs gave you. So I just think it's another one of these dividing tactics that the elite use. And man, do they know human psyche? Because they get it right all the time. They put it out there and it works. And even though we're in the truth community and we're people who should recognize it and say, nope, this is just another one of their tactics to turn us against each other, nope, people jump all over it and then start arguing between each other. And it's like, why would these things stop happening when we just fall into every single trap they place?
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, many of us do. So that's why we're kind of making the appeal to people to really evaluate it for yourselves. It's great to look up to people and want to follow their lead, but again, we said it so many times, don't believe everything we say, look into it yourself, take what resonates, leave the rest behind, bada bing, bada bong. Then you're independent and you're truly a researcher, and that's what we want, is independent people that are able to think for themselves and outside of the box. So all right, so let's move on now. Because ArcherSage will be coming on here probably any minute. But before that, I was sent this particular video, guys, from one of our biggest fans down in South America, who does a show very similar to Globebusters. It's in Spanish, and his name is Iru Landucci. He is a fabulous graphic artist, especially in 3D renderings and stuff like this. And he sent me this week, and it's a private video, but I will put it in the show notes because he said we could use it if people wanted to look at it. And I shared this with Jaron recently, and what it is there was a flight that was from Zurich to San Pablo, or Sao Paulo for those American-speaking people, and the pilot basically took a time-lapse cam, put it on the dash, and followed it all the way from Zurich down to Sao Paulo. So what this video does is it basically breaks that down. It shows the footage. Now, first of all, I have to tell you that we haven't looked at the source footage yet. Jaron, did point that out, and to me, it looks like it's legit, but I'm not sure 100% yet. But we're going to assume for the time being that it is legit, and it is actually a real time-lapse video going from Zurich to Sao Paulo, or San Pablo. So what he's pointing out here is essentially that the pilot is showing the exact same constellations in the sky, minus the rotation, of the stars. But during the entire trip, you can see these different land masses going by, different countries that they're passing over. And at the same time, we're also seeing the very same constellations that are just rotating. Now, what he points out is that if we're going over the top of the ball, over the top of the globe, and on the right-hand side here, you can see this route that would be taking, he's saying, wait a minute, how is it possible that we could possibly be getting this particular view of the sky without it changing absolutely dramatically. When in fact on a flat Earth map, this is exactly what we would expect to see, because we know that everything is level from Zurich all the way to South America. So I just wanted to point this out to people and for them to actually take a look at it. I think Eero did a great job on it. He also modeled what it should look like if it was on a globe, and obviously the constellations would be completely different. So assuming that the time lapse that he was taking this from is legit, right? And this is actually the flight path, and everything's on the level here. Har har har. Excuse the pun. Then we've got a problem with this video. We got a big problem with it in that we are not seeing anywhere near the change in star constellations that we absolutely should be. So I looked at it, and me being the person that admittedly is a little bit spatially challenged, I immediately sent it to Jaren and John. And Jaren, why don't you give us your take on what you think is going on here with this?
I definitely think there's a problem with it if it's real footage. So that was my only thing, is I want to kind of look up the source stuff for it and make sure that the pilot or whoever took the video actually says that that is actual footage and not placed in there after, or something like that, to where they just tried to match it close to what they saw in or something like that. So that's my only thing. Other than that, I definitely have a problem with it. Another thing I wanted to mention about that, if anybody lives from the equator to the Tropic of Capricorn, which is that middle part of South America and Africa, I would love to have them at least tape the sky and tell us whether or not that the North Pole star can be seen, because I've heard conflicting things. Of course, the globe model dictates that you shouldn't be able to see Polaris from anywhere south of the equator, but I hear that some people that I've seen, flat earthers, throw it around, say that you can see it all the way down to the Tropic of Capricorn. If that's true, that's the kind of thing, please email me, because that's the kind of thing that is the end of the globe. So I would say at this point, I don't think it's true, but if it is, please film it, show that you can see Polaris from somewhere south of the equator. But I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, and we have been joined by ArcherSage, fortunately, and as many of you know, ArcherSage does some really fantastic work debunking NASA videos and also stills. He's been on a few hangouts, or at least one hangout with you, Jaren, and did a really terrific job. And we know he's definitely over the mark because he has attracted some of the most elite of trolls to try and debunk him and threaten him and, dox him and all this stuff. So Archer, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine.
Great. Yeah, I having gone through many of the satellite images recently, I really just wanted to take it on. I've seen a lot of flat earthers going after the star trails or this or that, and I really just wanted to focus on the Earth images, because there's way more images coming out every day, supposedly, real-time images of the Earth, than were ever supposedly taken during the Apollo program. So if you can debunk 99% of the images that have ever claimed to be images of the Earth, then it's safe to say that the others as well are just as likely to be faked. And so that's what I'm focusing the majority of my time on. Yeah,
and that's excellent. And you've done, you do a lot of things, I think, JPEG Snoop, and then also the photo forensics. You use that as well as taking apart specific videos and seeing all kinds of mistakes in them. And your work, I think, is extraordinary. I really think you're doing a great job, and I was really impressed with the show that you did with Jaren and all the material that you had to share on that. So you've done a few hangouts with Mike Helmick that of course, many people know that Mike is the guy that's pretty much the expert on the virtual reality type stuff, and has shown in every way but Sunday how NASA is faking a lot of this stuff. And between the two of you, you guys are absolutely a force to be reckoned with, and you're doing some great stuff here. So I know you have some stuff that you want to share with us today. So at any point, if you want to screen share or anything like that, we can kind of get into anything you want to show us.
Gotcha. And another thing I want people to remember is when they start looking into this, a lot of people say, well, why would they do this? Why would they fake it? That's what gets a lot of people, I think, caught up on looking into things further, because you can explain how they can. and you can actually provide proof that they are, but then they'll say, but why? But that's just like a crime scene investigator going into a house where there's obviously been either suicide or a murder. He knows what's happened there, right? He don't know why it's happened yet, but there's evidence that this is what happened. Yes. Now, of course, to convict somebody in a court of law, you're going to need proof as to who did it. But because we know who the images are coming from, it's a lot easier, using that reasoning to figure out, okay, they're the ones faking this. It's not just NASA. It's the European Space Agency, the Russian space agencies, Japan. They're all doing a lot of the same things. So I'm just going to screen share here.
Okay, and let me stop my screen share, and then I will bring you up. Let's see. So stop sharing.
And I completely agree with you what you were saying about Russian vids, because none of us are going to have the same view on everything. Let me know whenever you see my screen.
Okay, not seen it yet, but when we are, I will share it. Looks like it's about to come up. There we go. Bada bing. Okay. There we go. And now I am presenting and sharing your screen.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Russian vids fan. I've watched his videos for a long time. I agree with about everything he says about, the psyops that are going on, the fake news stories, and that's what he specializes in. But when he says if you're wearing orange, that's because that's the only color that's 33. I mean, everybody on the Clemson Tigers team must be amazing.
Or Denver Broncos fans. I've got
Florida Gators.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, so just because I completely disagree with him about this doesn't mean for any second now I'm going to be like, okay, well now all of his other videos exposing shootings, I can't agree with him now. No, I'm able, because I'm a free thinking human being, to say I don't agree with this, but this other stuff makes sense. I can do that because I'm a human. Right. We can do that. That's what life is. So just wanted to throw that out there, just using that sort of logic. Yeah, I think he's absolutely wrong about the color thing, but who cares? There are people that believe him, and that's their choice, and I choose to disagree with him, but I'm also a big fan of his. So, and no way am I going to unsubscribe to him because of the orange thing. So,
yeah, same with me.
Just my take on that.
Yeah, and that's good. And like I said, I think that Russian vids is big enough to, allow us that ability to be able to disagree with him and not, declare an all-out war, because he realizes as much as we do that community cohesiveness, I think, is one of the biggest things we need to stick to. So
yeah. You want to be a community, but at the same time, you don't want to be a community that's all the same, and that would just be fascism. So we don't want that. We want everybody to have their own opinion, make their own videos, and you just watch what you like and don't watch what you don't like. It's that simple.
Yep, well said.
So many of you have seen this image of the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter supposedly took of the Earth and the Moon, which I put in one of my videos, which is a well-known paste job. You can see where the Earth's been pasted in. The Moon's been pasted in too, right? For those of you who haven't seen this. But NASA also uploaded another version where, if you can see over here where the question mark is, there's a mountain or a hill, which was over here. This is the same picture that they've completely removed. And not only that, but they've also removed the box and the fake lunar surface, a good majority of it that was on this version.
That's crazy. They took out the whole mountain on the left side, or whatever that is.
Yeah, and you can see where they did it. You can see that's healing brush. That's the healing brush right here. You could tell.
Why would
and
they
didn't even do a good job.
Why do you suppose they would do that? Take out that entire hill?
I have no idea. From one of the original videos, not original videos, original image they released, they actually said that this black line, which is like right here, I don't know if you can see that there's a line there. They say that's the top of the moon surface. Mm-hmm. But the problem with that was in the original, that was above that black line. So like, oh, wait a second, that's not supposed to be there, because we said this was the mountains in the distance. So how can this be here?
That makes sense. Okay.
So they went and said, oh, okay. So if that doesn't convince anybody that they manipulate images. Now, just because other images may not show obvious signs of manipulation doesn't mean they're not manipulated. It just means they did a better job. You're not going to find boxes around every Earth image, but there are many examples where you do have this problem. But all they have to do, and you can ask Jaron how easy this is, or anybody, just to paste a transparent image over a black background, and you won't have any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just really sloppy.
Yeah, in fact, you've actually shown a couple examples where, you pasted it in, and I mean, it was absolutely perfect. There was nothing but black around it. So much better than what NASA did. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and And that just goes to show you how lazy they are. I'm not discovering anything necessarily they don't want us to see, because the reality is they have both versions still up on the website. Why would they do that? Why not take this one down and put this one up?
Yeah, it seems like they're just advertising that they're fake. You have two different distinct, images that are supposed to be a photograph. They're not even, from what I understand about this, this is supposed to be an actual photograph that was taken and not a composite, right? Because it's snapped from the moon.
Well, they say it's a combination of two cameras. There's a camera left and a camera right, supposedly, on the LRO. And some of the critics of my video say, well, as soon as NASA admits that there's two cameras involved, that explains, you can't say that there's anything wrong with the picture. I mean, that's like saying if I brighten the image up and I saw a picture of Mickey Mouse in the background, well, because NASA said it was a composite, then that explains it.
Right.
That's their mentality. Doesn't make any sense. But what's funny is if you were in court, let's say there was a picture of supposedly your tennis shoe on the crime scene laying beside the person who was killed, and your tennis shoe's there. And they know it's your tennis shoe, and you're in court, and then they put it through photo forensics, because that's actually what they do in court. Anytime an image is produced, they have to prove that it's a valid image, and they do use a lot of software similar to what I use, like JPEG Snoop, but maybe a little bit higher quality. But if they went in there and they saw that your shoe had a box around it like this, they would dismiss that evidence in court.
Immediately, yep.
But when NASA does it, it's okay, because what if I said, yeah, okay, so I put his shoe in beside the crime scene, but it's a composite, so it's a real image combined with two different shots.
Yeah,
that's still fake.
When I look at the people who come and comment on your videos or mine when we're talking about these things, is they just dismiss anything that NASA has an explanation for as being explained by NASA. And for people who can't see what's going on there, is like, well, yeah, if you're going to accept whatever somebody tells you is the reason for something, then you will forever be deceived. I mean, how could you not be? Because all they have to do when they slip up is explain it. It's like ridiculous that
so as long as they say something's a composite, which many of these are not, by the way. I've actually went and got the raw images from the LRO, which are claimed to be raw, and they have the same exact problem, right? This one here, see if you can see this. This was the raw shot. Supposedly, it's got the same problem. So, I don't know. I mean, there's no explanation for this, and it seems like it's tilted. They always usually tilt the box many times in the same degree that are supposed to be tilted. I don't know. It's weird, but this is a raw shot, supposedly.
So Archer, can you explain a little bit, just for the viewers? You're using terms like RAW and JPEG, and the different types of PNGs. Can you talk about what the differences are, just to bring a little bit better understanding for the viewers?
Yeah. Well, when you shoot a picture with any camera, it's a raw image, but depending on the mode that you have the camera set to, will usually determine if it's converted into JPEG or a TIFF file. TIFF's a little bit higher quality than JPEG because it's not as compressed. But a lot of what NASA releases is JPEG, so you can put it in photo analysis like JPEG Snoop, and it can tell you the compression data. But also, the images that are supposedly coming from Juno, the raw images, they're PNG files. Mm-hmm. And PNG files are usually used with transparent backgrounds, right? They're usually for text and things like that. Not many cameras shoot PNG. Some do, but the majority they do not. So it is very strange that you're getting PNG files supposedly from Juno. So I can't actually do JPEG analysis on it because it's not a JPEG. But if they release a JPEG, it's like I'm so happy because I can easily go and tell if it's been through software or if the camera compression matches another camera that's not supposed to be the camera that's taking the picture. I can do that. But every time you take a picture and it's a JPEG, it's been compressed. It has to be compressed. Even straight off my camera, the best quality I had was 97% JPEG, straight off the camera. So, but yeah, you can do a lot from also doing analysis on the file types, but the majority of what they release is JPEG, so I can do a pretty good bit of analysis on it. But yeah, anyway, something else I wanted to show you guys. I just made a video about this. Russia has a satellite, an Earth-observing satellite called Electro-L, and they released this picture about 5 days ago.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which I'm going to show you guys the FTP server site that you can go to yourself. My first thought was, well, because they're supposedly taking 3 pictures with the red, blue, and green channels. There's 3 shots put together. Something happened with the green, right? Mm-hmm. But it's very weird because you have this problem that entire day with all their images. And you can see where there's like a box around it. My opinion is that these are going through software programs like modeling software, much like the Blue Marble was made with, not just Photoshop. Photoshop's used to touch it up. It's not created in Photoshop. A lot of this is made in modeling software and then put in Photoshop to kind of get the colors and stuff a little bit more how they want it. And if they save it through Photoshop, it overrides any modeling information that may have been saved. So that's another reason they do that. But if you look at this picture, that was this one right here was taken the same day. I don't know if you guys can see this. So there we go. You see that?
Yep.
Look at this. This is supposedly real picture.
What's with the dividing line down the center?
Yeah, exactly. This is supposed to be from what they call geosynchronous orbit, which is 22,000 miles away. And why is there a obvious dividing line? There's all this stuff over here, and there's nothing over here. This is a huge problem. This cannot be a photograph at all. And not to mention, there's no cloud data on this side. You see where the very top, which is on the other side, is getting sunlight. Yet there's nothing over here. That doesn't make any sense. If you increase that, where's the clouds? Where's the land? There's nothing, which doesn't make sense because they also released from the same day pictures of clouds, which I'll show you right here. I'm on the Electro website already, so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. This is today, by the way.
Okay.
So you see today. These folders are uploaded every 30 minutes. I'm just going to click this one here. A lot of people accuse me of manipulating these to fit my agenda.
Well,
right.
Again, that's because you're over the mark, and they will do any excuse to make you sound like you're crazy.
Yeah. So if you click, they upload this every single day, and what you're seeing is not a glitch. This is actually a white circle Earth. This is uploaded with every folder, and I'm still waiting for the fans of the space agencies to explain this to me. This is obviously not space around it. It's a black background, and this is obviously supposed to be the Earth because it's the same exact diameter and everything, right? I mean, it's obviously the same shot because the images they're taking are, you see the circle fits the same exact, if I just brighten this up real quick, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Tell me if what I just did to their image doesn't look the same as this.
Yeah, it does.
So, what is this? What is this for? It's almost as if they're uploading some sort of source file that they're using to create the model with every single folder. And this is from today. This isn't like a fluke glitch. They do this every single day. And I'm just like, wow, what is this? And yeah, it's made from that. And there's an obvious dividing line, and there's only one camera, which even with 2 cameras, you won't get a dividing line like that. So this is obviously not a real picture of the Earth. And I'm still waiting on somebody to prove me wrong on this.
Right.
And the other thing is the background, the blackness behind the Earth. You're not going to see stars. Just like if I go outside with my camera at night, unless I use a long exposure, you're really not going to see stars. But you should see stars if you brighten it up enough, which the majority of images, you can go take a picture outside of your night sky, put it in a photo program, and brighten it up, and slowly you'll start to see little bits over here of stars and noise. The cameras have noise, especially when shooting against a black background. You'll have noise. Any photographer knows that, but they never have noise. You know why? Because this background isn't space.
Right.
This is transparent, and this is pasted over a fake background. So I don't know why people still believe this.
Right. Well, that kind of begs the question of when NASA is doing these photographs, some of them I'm sure are taken from very high altitude positions, but again, when you listen to some of the astronauts' testimony and look at the pictures, there's never any stars there, never ever any stars. And of course, a lot of people have said, well, that's because of the exposure of the camera. And you just said, well, even if you crank up the exposure, there should be something there. But never, ever are there any stars in the background, which means that either some of these pictures are legit and you really cannot see stars, out in, above a certain elevation above the Earth, or it's just entirely fabricated, which it could be either one. I tend to believe also that you really can't see stars up that high, even though,
you can't.
Yeah, I don't believe so either. But it may be a little bit higher than 100,000 feet. I mean, I've made the claim before, and this was one of the reasons why we wanted to do the night balloon launch, is because I was under the my idea is that once you got above maybe 80,000 feet or something like that, that the stars are going to fade out. Now, recently I have seen, well, not recently, actually it was several months ago, Chris Van Maitre sent me a picture of somebody that used a very high-end camera, a Sony A7, with a good lens on it, sent it up on a balloon, and it got up to 80,000 feet, and it was definitely showing stars, but the interesting thing about it is that the stars seem to be diminishing from where they were at like 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet. So maybe it might take something over 100,000 feet, but I'm still convinced that they can't be seen from these altitudes.
Yeah, and that's from the observer. And a lot of it depends on the ISO as well. But the real condemning evidence against these being actual images of space isn't just the lack of stars, which you're not going to see, like you said, even supposedly from the moon. If you were on the moon, you probably wouldn't even really see it with your naked eyes. But there's still the problem of there's no noise, which if you're taking a picture with any camera, you're going to see in these black areas. If you brighten it up enough, you will see little grainy, noise would show up. And the fact that it isn't showing up proves to me that it's not being taken with a real camera. And by the way, this was taken today. This was the most recent picture, so you guys see what I'm talking about. And the dividing line is there still. Even though this side does have some data, you're still seeing this dividing line with all their images. So something's not right here, And all the pictures, whether it's from the GOES satellite or the Himawari or the Russian Electra, they all look the same. See, here's a blue marble. These two are Himawari, and this one's Electra, and they're all exactly the same size. And the excuse is, well, they're all in the same orbit. But the reality is they're all using different cameras, different lenses, different focal lengths, and they're all getting the same results. And they're all over a black background. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep. And
for those of you who may not know, I spelled camera wrong.
Camarilla.
Camarilla.
There you go. So one other thing that you found that I thought was interesting.
This is what I'm talking about, by the way, if you guys want to know what I'm talking about. Eventually, if you brighten up a picture enough, even depending on the ISO used on the camera, you will see these little grainy bits of noise, which is, any camera has this. Every camera has, even the best one. Like, see, this one over here is really dark, can't really see, but eventually you will see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eventually you will see it.
It looks, of course, very much like we, back in the old days when we had the old broadcast channels on TV, and you tuned to a channel that didn't have any RF signal on it, and it was nothing but noise, and it just looks very much like that because there's nothing there, and the noise is basically amplified infinitely.
And what's funny is they've told us the blue marble was not taken from far enough to see the whole Earth, so that we know the background is fake, and it has the same exact results as all the other ones that are supposedly real. They have the same background. So that just tells me they're all using the same methodology in the creating of their 3D images.
Archer, you're going to love it. On Thursday, I was watching an auction, and I purchased 4 moon landing books. Footprints on the Moon was 1969. The Moon Explorers, 1970, Man on the Moon, 1969, and Apollo on the Moon, 1973. But they all have a ton of pictures in them, and I'm like dying to get them because maybe there's some images that they've changed. These are going to be images that came out between 69 and 73. So perhaps I'll be able to find quite a few that the images that we see now are not the same.
Yeah, well, that they've been uploading Apollo images on the internet ever since the internet existed. But the fact is, they've uploaded them, removed them, re-uploaded them, taken them down, fixed them, put them back up. They've been modified so many times. It's hard to tell what they claim is an original raw photo. They don't exist anymore. There's no such thing. People like to claim there is. I had a guy that was debating with me on my channel. He's like, well, their photos they took on the moon weren't that good. Here's an original before they fixed it up. Like, how do you know it's an original?
Yeah.
Right. That's I think that some of these images that might be in this book might be clear evidence that they have changed them.
Yeah, and which, by the way, this is the Discover. And I think they're doing the same thing, by the way. What Russia's doing with their supposed images. NASA does it with Discover, which isn't it funny how you can see right here, it's almost 1 million miles away from the Earth, and you're getting the same exact Earth size as the supposed images that are coming from 22,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that? Because let me put this up here. This is from Himawari, which is it's a pretty big file. It's going to take a second to load. Himawari is supposed to be 22,000 miles away, and this is supposed to be 1 million miles away. But if you download this, you'll see that the black area around it will be exactly like this, exactly the same, cropped right on the edge. That's like they're all just using the same format. And they don't care. And it's funny because the sun. You see the sunspot right here?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rob Simmons called that the specular highlight.
Right.
On the blue marble, which I have right here. If you can see it right here, this is the making of the blue marble, which was actually made with a Mercator projection. But you see how he adds a specular highlight straight in the middle right here around California, which would be right here on the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a specular highlight, which is in the same spot as every image NASA releases from Discover.
Mm-hmm. There's a few things that NASA has done that have really confused me as far as, ever since they released the blue marble image, okay, and they have come out with, better projections of the map, like the Peters projection, the Gall Peters, and it never ceases to amaze me that in all of these changes, and obviously they really can't do it, but the continent sizes that are actually shown on the globe match more the Mercator instead of the Gall Peter. So, even by several people's own admission, the continents are the wrong size. And do you think that it's just because they put that out originally before this whole Gall Peters came out? Thing came up, saying, well, these are the more accurate sizes of the continents, and then they were forced to stay with that? Or what do you think the reason is for that, that they're doing that, using the wrong continent sizes on the globe?
Well, I think that they used a Mercator on the majority of these globe images before they wrap it around the globe, because I've seen, from the different space agencies, their supposed pictures all will have this very almost identical layout, which I don't know if you saw from my other video from that FTP server where Himawari and the Ghost satellite images go up, supposedly raw data. They admit that the underlying land, if I can remember exactly what it said the underlying land is from the blue marble map set. This is the blue marble map set, which is a Mercator projection, which is funny. They say, oh, this is from satellite images because this is supposedly what took it. But this gray stuff at the bottom, see, there's no Antarctica here. This gray stuff is a model. And what's funny is this was actually warped from the Mercator. This isn't from satellite, and because they admit the cloud data wasn't even there originally. So this is a false claim that was taken from strip data. And if this is strip data, and you put it together, and this is the shape of the Earth, then we're living on an egg. We're not actually living on a sphere. But somehow they take this, turn it into this, which is obviously not from that, right?
No.
And we're going to make this. But what's funny is this white 3D model here. If you took away the shading and the highlights, this would be a two-dimensional white circle, just like we are seeing from the Russian pictures every day.
Right. And it makes no sense either that they say, oh, we don't have any satellites out far enough away from the Earth to take a full image. Okay, that's great. But if you're talking about being economical, what makes more sense? Let's send a satellite around the ball Earth many, many times and take strips of footage, or to go far away and take one image. It's like, why would you ever do it in strips if you don't have to? I can understand. couldn't go far enough.
Yeah, well, they claim that it's because it gets better shots, such as Landsat, which is like over 500 miles away. It's supposed to be over twice as far away as the ISS. And this is how many strips it took for them to get a composite of just the United States. Let me open up this picture. Look at this. How many strips it took just to get the U.S. Because I know from a high-altitude balloon, you can see like 2 states from 100,000 feet.
Yeah, that's crazy why they would do that. You know, there's also another thing that came up that I found interesting. Another YouTuber called Good Times for All. And you know how we have the picture of, you know, the blue marble, and then we have another picture of it that shows the United States literally taking up like half of the entire world. And so he came out with a video saying that, well, you know, anybody can do this. You just have to get the camera closer. And so he took a couple pictures saying that, yeah, see, there you go. And this, you know, this should no longer be used as evidence. But I'm thinking about that. It's like, but wait a minute. Supposedly NASA is still doing entire big blue ball images. And if they're doing these in strips, then it doesn't make any sense that, you know, what he's saying, you know, like it's a single shot from up above that's showing the continent to be so much bigger. And I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about or not on this, but I looked at that and he's saying, well, we shouldn't ever use this because anybody can take a close-up picture of a globe and it shows this particular angle. But that is not the way that NASA does this. So I've been kind of meaning to address this at some point. I don't know if you've seen it, but I completely disagree with that particular take on it.
Yeah, he's talking about how the United States, I think I've seen it before, he puts like something on a tennis ball and shows if you're close to it that you can make a landmass seem bigger. But NASA claim that they are taking the image from that distance. That's the problem, is that, yeah, if one image was taken from 3,000 miles and then another image was taken from 6,000, well, then you could show, well, this 3,000 mile image has a larger United States than the 6,000 mile. But that's not at all what's going on. So the argument is kind of a moot point.
Right, because even if they're at a lower angle, and Flat Earth Math tried to pull this explanation off too, which I found ultimately ridiculous, because again, NASA is saying that they are doing these strip photographs and getting a picture of the entire globe. Well, that is completely incommensurate with showing the United States taking up half of the globe. You know, that just doesn't fly. So I really took exception with that, and I'm going to have to talk to him about it.
That's like me saying, you know, I can take a picture of my whole car, but I'm going to take 100 photos, each, you know, a couple inches wide, then combine them later because it's a better photo.
Right.
It's more realistic.
yeah, just to make a super big pixel image. And people are like, yeah, look, you know, it's 11,000 by 11,000. That's got to be a real photo because it's really big. No, that's not why. Which they admit their models actually have to have a really high pixel dimensions, usually like 11,000 plus. By 11,000. They say that's because it's easier to model the weather changes that way. They tell you.
Right.
I keep trying to tell people, they don't hide this stuff. They tell you, you know, exactly how they do it. Go ahead. I'm going to pull up a picture here while you talk.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to say one last thing I want to say is I think that Good Times for All is a fabulous channel. He does some great work. I'm certainly not dissing him, but I am saying that I do disagree with one of his most recent videos that he puts out, saying that we shouldn't be looking at this large United States and comparing it to the blue marble and calling it invalid, you know, because of his camera angles. I completely disagree with his conclusion on that. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop watching him because he's out there doing his own thing and not everybody gets everything right. And for all I know, I may be wrong about it, but it's just, you know, a difference of opinion. And again, that doesn't mean he's a shill or I don't like him. I think he's doing great work. So I just wanted to make that clear. Go ahead, Archer.
Yeah. And so a lot of people have been wondering how they could possibly fake all this or how they could upload this much data. Well, they have a supercomputer at, you know, NASA Goddard Space Center, the Discover supercomputer, and they do climate projections. And when I say climate, I don't mean just like supposed global warming. They're talking about actual cloud and hurricane formations. And supposedly they actually predicted many times the formation of hurricanes months in advance and the path of hurricanes, which meteorologists and like weather guys that you see on the news actually use these weather models as the evidence that you're seeing on TV, not actually from satellite, but from the models. They say it's actually more accurate than anything we can get from it, which makes no sense, but that's what they use, supposedly. So when people say, well, how accurate can a model be? Well, they're telling you they're very accurate. And if you believe what NASA says, if you want to use that argument against them, then you can, because they're claiming that it's very accurate up to many, many months in advance. You can read right here. It says that NASA's Goddard Space Center team of scientists spends its days incorporating millions of atmospheric observations. So you got to be careful with that word, because they actually consider observing a model an observation. Sophisticated graphic tools and lines of computer code to create computer models simulating the weather and climate conditions responsible for hurricanes. It's not just this. Okay, it's for everything. Every single thing is done this way. Let me read this real quick. It says they belong to a team whose goal is to assess whether new data are used efficiently in computer models, and they can update and improve the performance of models in their data assimilation systems. Data assimilation refers to the process through which data or observations are incorporated into an existing model. That existing model being the blue marble. Okay, it already exists. The Earth model, they use the same thing over and over. It's the blue marble data set, the Mercator. They just wrap it around the globe, and they update the weather on top of it. And they tell you they do it. They do it by increasing their computer processing power, because they have ridiculous supercomputers. And here's what I was telling you about the pixels. It says the more pixels or dots of color in a square inch of a photo, the higher the resolution. High resolution photos appear sharper and capture more detail, blah, blah, blah. It says likewise, higher resolution models produce more detailed simulations of hurricanes, giving researchers a better understanding of their behavior. And he tells you they basically transform the Earth into little cubes, and in each cube, the fundamental equations controlling the motion, energy, and continuity of the atmosphere are solved. So basically, their equations, what would you call that? What's the word I'm looking for? Can't remember. Anyway, they put these equations in, and it basically controls the motion of the clouds and things like that. And they tell you how they do it. And I'll think of that word again later on. And this is that computer. This is the Discover supercomputer. It's ridiculously powerful. This is actually the people who process this. This it's funny how the people who admit they're making models, updating weather and cloud patterns, are the same people processing these supposed real images of Earth. So my conclusion is, how do you know what's what?
And even that they say is a composite. They admit that this is a composite as well. It's 3 or 4 different images.
Yeah. Oh, the word I'm looking for is algorithm.
God, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you put into photo forensics, if you put an image from this website into photo forensics, it'll tell you that it's processed by, I got it underlined here, the NASA Center for Climate Simulation. What are they doing? Processing with their software, which are admitted to be modeling and fake, clouds and stuff. What are they doing with this? That should create suspicion with somebody. I think they're actually doing live, simulations and projecting it as real photographs, and people are buying it. Mm-hmm. Even though in the same breath they tell you that this uses the same model as the blue marble, and we're just doing weather projections. So we know that's what they're doing. They admit that's what they're doing, and their logo is actually kind of funny too. If you've ever looked at the Center for Climate Simulation, their logo is actually the Earth being built by this computer.
Oh, jeez, that is over the top.
You see the little tiny. They said they divided it into squares.
Yeah, indeed they are.
Here's a little. Look at all the little squares. Yeah, that's the Earth.
So
and that looks like the blue marble being built, but they tell you, this is official. These are the people who process these images from these supercomputers. This is how they're able to upload terabytes of data every day.
So Archer, just out of curiosity, I mean, obviously, you've uncovered the Himawari and the GOES satellite that are clearly, even in their little README files, they're clearly constructing these things from pieces of pictures. They're fabricating them, they're photoshopping them, and yet so many people out there are claiming that, oh, well, see, the Himawari is doing this constantly. These pictures are being updated. It's real data, real pictures. Where are they getting this idea if Himawari and GOES themselves are admitting in their own, internal documentation that they're basically pieces of composites? How are people getting that misunderstanding?
I have no idea, because they admit that they have the ability to do these things. See, this is actually from the same people, and This is actually, they admit this is a model right here. These are models, but doesn't it look exactly like the stuff they're claiming are not models?
Yeah. It looks virtually identical. I mean, there's some slight differences, but it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so
and you also have to believe that Discover satellite is placed at a position in orbit that is called the Lagrange point, where it's exactly the distance away from the Earth and the Sun that it just sits there, which is just classic.
Yeah.
It's not kind of orbit like everything else has to be. It is allowed to just sit there because its gravity is being pulled equally at all times by both the Earth and the Sun.
Yeah, and you see, they tell you they're simulating the globe in 1 mile segments. And what's funny is that they're talking about at their 1 mile resolution, we can see weather and other atmospheric phenomena at a neighborhood scale. That is also the resolution of most modern satellites. So what they're saying is they get the same resolution as a supposed satellite would from a simulation. And it doesn't make sense. They say about creating a virtual Earth observing system, our simulation connects neighborhoods around the world, blah, blah, blah. So they actually consider looking at this an observation. This is Earth observing. You know how the satellites are called Earth observing satulites?
Uh-huh.
This is an Earth observing simulation, and this is 100% valid in the scientific community as evidence. What's done in a simulation is actually considered evidence. See, this is from the Center for Climate Simulation. Look what they said here. Computer simulations predict the existence of a so-called naked singularity, which interferes with Einstein's general theory of relativity, which I don't even agree with relativity. But what they're saying, because a simulation did something, now it's reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that if they run a computer simulation and it gets one result or this result, then they actually accept that as evidence, which I've shown in one of my other videos, where the people that supposedly detect exoplanets, they do it because they put a simulation in a computer, and whenever it matches like a certain shape, then they found like an exoplanet because of a simulation, and they admit it. So to these guys, a simulation is also valid evidence. If you went to court with these guys, they would actually use computer simulations as evidence, which is funny because the so-called evidence of climate change is also being ran through computer simulations in the next 100 years, which is not evidence of anything happening now.
Right.
But that's how they think. I mean, this is real because the computer said it was real. That's what they do.
I know. It is so over the top.
That's what they do.
And they do. They play both sides of it. And all this does is create confusion, division, you know, and it's designed absolutely to do that, because they are not perfect in their fabrication. They never will be. And people like you or anybody else out there is going to be finding these errors and these pictures and exposing them. So all they can do is create a certain degree of ambiguity around them. And, you know, they have, let's face it, the elites have the best minds money can buy. And, you know, our opponent is well researched and is also quite intelligent. But, you know, they cannot overcome all of us. You know, they're not going to get it by all of us. And that's the good thing about, you know, what people like you are doing in this work.
Yeah, and they tell you how good their modeling is. They tell you, it says right here, first, it is essential for NASA to be able to simulate existing and future types of observations with a resolution that is close to the footprint size of the satellite instruments. I mean, it's vital that we get the results that people would expect from satellites. Mm-hmm. And they tell you they tell you how they do it. And yeah, look into global mesoscale modeling if you haven't looked into it. This is, I believe, kind of the way they've let the cat out of the bag with how they're doing it, because they've actually done these up to 2 years before,
right? And
supposedly with really good accuracy. So,
and you know, the thing about this whole global mesoscale modeling, all this is you know, put forth to be legitimized and people to say, okay, well, you know, they have their explanations, they have their data, this is the way they do it. But, you know, what they're deterring people away from is the thought, the absolute knowledge that why can't they just take pictures? Why can't they put a camera on the moon? Why can't they put the camera on the Himawari, take entire unretouched untouched videos, give us the raw data, all this stuff. And of course, we know the reason for that. And that is quite simply that because they're not in space, they don't have things a million miles away, the Earth isn't a ball for them to photograph in the first place, so they legitimize all this other stuff, to make people believe that, oh yeah, that's legit, and they're giving us, the best possible composites they can because it's the only way they can do it, which is utter ridiculousness. I mean, there is no reason in the world why we shouldn't have tons, thousands, hundreds of thousands of pictures and video from satellites and places like the moon that are far enough away to give us the wide enough perspective that we would need to see this. Everything else is just BS, and it's being legitimized.
Yeah, and the same side of the moon supposedly is always facing Earth. You could just literally go send a probe with a camera on it just to face Earth, and it would always face Earth, right?
Right.
Be done. That's all you need to do. The other thing is with that Discover image, or that satellite out there, they have the one image, Bob, that we've looked at before of the moon crossing the Earth there. Well, where's the shadow for the eclipse? Where's the, you've put now the moon between the Earth and the sun, yet there's no eclipse on that day. Go look up that day. I think I'm going to get it wrong, July 15th, 2000 something. But there's no eclipse that day.
And it's funny because they say, that was the dark side of the moon, but every single image they release has the so-called specular highlight right in the middle, which means that if a moon passed across the front here, that the actual back of the moon, which would be on the opposite side of what an Earth observer would see, would be hit by direct sunlight.
Right, it should be as bright as the full moon. And
it should be very bright.
I made that point before. I said, well, look at this moon crossing the Earth, and they still have it dark because it's the dark side of the moon, even though it should be. And then the person came back to me and said, oh, you're such an idiot. The moon is only bright when we look through the atmosphere. It's never bright out in space. Well, then I went and showed them all the images of Apollo 11 when they're on the way to the moon, and every image is the bright ass full moon.
But then they say, oh, well, there's a partial atmosphere in space.
Oh boy, they'll make up something. It's like, well, they saying, are you saying we went to the moon then? I said, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have to choose one. And if you're going to tell me that it's not supposed to be bright, then it wasn't supposed to be bright on their way to the moon. Or if you choose that it is supposed to be bright, then this image is faked. So you can choose whatever one you want, and it proves that NASA is full of shit.
And it's funny, I actually tweeted Rob Simon and asked him, I was like, I know you guys paste over black background, but I tried to make it sound like a nice way. I'm like, can you at least show me like what the process is for how you do that? Instead of denying that they pasted over black background, he sent me to GDAL, which is a software program that creates spherical 3D models. He just gave me a link. That's all he did. He's like, yeah, here, check this link out. So, okay, GDAL. Okay, what's GDAL? Well, that's actually what they actually use. That's the actual program. He just gave a huge speech on YouTube and actually addressed the flat Earth, by the way, if you haven't seen that.
I did see that. I thought that was amazing. He didn't address it in a favorable way, though.
No, which according to Rob Simon, the Earth becomes a curve after just 70,000 feet. Not even. He said 60. If you can read, he said it's only at twice that height because he's referring to this 30,000 foot view. He said once you hit 60,000 feet, that's the first hint of curve. That's when it becomes visible. And that's from Rob Simon. But he gives all kinds of advice on, he literally says you can put in these codes in GDAL and, you have, and then you can take this, and he tells you how he takes these maps, and he's like, success, we did it, and then you just type these codes in and I'm not a programmer, so I'm not going to pretend to understand all of this, but it seems like he's trying to explain how you can do this in a program, and that's exactly what they do. And he went on to say that he gets the maps from Natural Earth, this website, which has some of the most strange map projections I've ever seen in my life. If you just highlight any of these, it'll change to another projection. Some of them are really weird shape, but according to Rob Simon, they're all perfectly valid depending on what you want to do. He's like, if you're traveling the world on a ship, use the Mercator projection. If you want to look at the poles, use the stereographic projection. These are all weird, some of these have some of the weirdest shapes I've ever seen, but according to Rob Simon, they are all accurate depending on what you want to do. I mean, look at that.
They don't have a WGS 84 in there, do they? Down a little bit at all? Yeah, I didn't think so.
But the Rob Simmons' favorite one, he said, was the where is that? The nail hammer, not nail hammer. Yeah, this one. It's kind of like a. Won't let me scroll up, but yeah, it's like it's a slightly very oblate version. That's what he said he likes to use. So you can just pick, whichever model is your favorite, and that's the Earth.
That's crazy. By the way, Jaron, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but one of the latest tactics by the Globe Trolls, including Flat Earth Math, is they are now going to balloon footage produced by like Dwayne Kellum or any other flat earthers, and they're sitting there saying, straight up, oh look, this proves the curvature. And again, if there's any fisheye lens or any part of it, they're saying, yep, like Flat Earth Math specifically is saying, yep, look at this time index. There's a little bit of a bow in there. Absolutely conclusively proves that we're dealing with a ball Earth. This is like, whenever they cannot, produce the evidence, they start making ridiculous claims about ours, right? Oh yeah, great. This flat Earth footage that you flat earthers are showing is really proving the ball, and they're really trying to sell that, which just blows me away.
It's like they can't grasp what a ball would look like or what would happen on a ball, and clearly what we see in like Dwayne Kellum's footage is the equivalent of if you raised a camera above a hula hoop. As you raise that camera up a little bit, you're going to see, and we don't actually see the horizon when you get that high. And again, I'll show anybody who wants to see a paper that went through peer review and everything that says that after, and I'll probably get this wrong, it's either 2,000 or 3,000 feet, that the horizon is indistinguishable any further. So nobody can say when you've got, Wolfie or somebody else saying, oh, well, the horizon line is dropping. Well, then I'll show you a peer-reviewed paper that says that there's no way that can be determined, because at that distance, it becomes indistinguishable from the actual clouds that are building up due to perspective. So when you see yourself rising above a hula hoop, where the edge of that hula hoop would be indistinguishable from the clouds above it, well, you're going to see what looks like a circle around you. It's your circle of view. It's not at all curvature that would be on a ball. And, I don't know if we're going to talk about that this time or not, but there's still a lot of us, and I've had some people even contact me this week. It's so crazy when you and I were talking the other night, Bob, about curvature, and then I go to Facebook and see a few people message me talking about the curvature calculation. It's like, man, were we guys listening to our conversation?
Yeah, that is pretty weird. Well, it's kind of like that everybody's been talking about the Metabunk site, where this guy has his own formula for the Earth curvature, but then he also adds this other, custom variable designed by him in there that adds in these refraction things that I don't know if he's just pulling them out of his butt or what, but of course now all the Globers are now swarming all over saying, yeah, Metabunk, that's the site to be at, and it's really pathetic that the lengths that they're going to try and show curve, right? Even if they have to outright fabricate it. Or say that something is there that isn't. It's beyond belief to me.
The whole idea of that whole refraction thing, and that when we see the sun, it's actually below the horizon, it can be disproven by anybody by just watching the sun throughout the day. That at no point does it morph into a location below or above the horizon, or if it was, we're seeing it and it's actually below, then at what point does it, whoa, that's weird, my sound went off. At what point does it jump into a new position, or at what point does it jump into its correct position? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I mean, you don't see any of that, and the whole idea of the refraction. I mean, think about when we watch the ISS footage and you watch the sunrise, that you're in a location that supposedly has no atmosphere. You're up at the ISS, and you're looking through the atmosphere of the Earth. So if there was ever refraction, the absolute number one time would be you're looking from a place with no density through the atmosphere of Earth, and most times it's the ocean, right? Since that covers 70% of the Earth's surface. So you're actually looking through the atmosphere of the ocean from a place that has no atmosphere. That should be the absolute most. You should see the sun an hour before, because think of the refraction that would be there. We don't see anything like that. Yet they will employ their own, let's use refraction here, let's not. Like they use refraction to explain that peak of Canigou being seen from 160 miles. It's just it's nonsense. So somehow the mountains now are being lifted up also by refraction, because you're seeing them from behind the ball, then that should be happening on the ISS tenfold.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, sorry, I'm just typing a message here.
Okay. Yeah, and you also have some of the problems with. I was talking to Mike the other day. I don't know if anybody's really into photography, but on Earth, even with the fast shutter speed is when your camera basically has a shutter, it opens, it lets light in, and hits the sensor, and then it closes, and whatever it captures, and however long you have it open, is the image. If you leave it open too long, the image is too bright. If you leave it open if you don't leave it open long enough, you get a dark image, right? Mm-hmm. So, just like how your eyes work, same sort of similar way, but your eye kind of auto adjusts, but this doesn't. But knowing that about exposure, it's very interesting going back and looking at some of the Apollo missions, and how they just got so many of the photos really well. And Apollo 11 was actually the best one as far as the photography goes, which doesn't make sense because I've always heard people say, oh, the pictures on Apollo 11 were good because they sent like probes and they knew what the lighting was supposed to be like. Okay, then how come like every Apollo mission after, the photography got worse? No, that doesn't make sense. Like you would just copy the exact exposure, if that's what the sun, if being in sunlight on the moon is this shutter speed, you would just always use the same exposure. When Apollo 11 got back and they developed the film, say, oh look, this is the right exposure, so we're just going to do this every picture now.
Right. I think the photography got worse because the technology to detect fake photography got way better. So
and it looked too good. The original missions photos were so good. I think they realized, wait a second.
Oh, I know. They were perfectly framed, perfectly exposed. I mean, everything about them was perfect. Like it was, like it was shot in a studio. Imagine that.
And look at the difference in the video footage between Apollo 11 and after that. I mean, Apollo 11 is ghost figures running around see-through.
Yeah, the cameras are great though. The photos were obviously done by professionals. This is hard for me to believe that they could have done that. And I've talked about it before, about how hard it would be to do manual photography. Keep in mind, they couldn't take a picture and then look at it after and see if it was too dark or too bright. And they're like, oh, let me adjust and take another picture. No, they had no clue until they got back to Earth and developed it if the picture was overexposed or not. They had no clue. So the fact that so many of these were done so well is amazing, really. But this is from Apollo 10. I want you to look at the size of the Earth. You can see the Earthrise right here.
Uh-huh.
And supposedly they only had 2 or 3 different cameras with different millimeter lenses. And just to explain what I'm talking about real quick.
What was that sphere above the Earth?
Depending on... Oh, that's just noise on the camera, like film.
All right. It's like, holy cow, another moon.
No, that's Nibiru.
Yeah. That's it. It's Nibiru. Okay. Anyway, continue on.
Yeah, if you can barely see up here on the 18 millimeter focal length, there's a red barn here, right? As you increase the focal length, this isn't just zooming in. You can literally switch a lens that has a different focal length, and you see the barn becomes more and more visible the higher the focal length is, right? That's common sense. The same thing should be happening with the Earth. If this red barn was the Earth, right? The closer, and not just increasing the focal length, but also, even if they maintain this original lens, if you walked towards the barn would get bigger every picture you took, right? It should. So now that we understand that, we know that they only used, I think it was 100, was it 120 or 80? They have one focal length they used when they were in orbit, and they had another one that they used when they were supposedly on the lunar surface, which that's why the NASA fans say, oh, that's why the Earth looks so small on the moon's surface. On that one picture where there's the flag, and it's like the Earth's really small. So, oh, that's because of the focal length. So they're saying it's because like of this. Like we know the barn isn't this small, right? Because of the focal length, it looks really small. That's what they're saying. All right, so we know they're not changing the focal length here. They're in orbit. They're on the way home. They just went around the moon. You see the Earth. And I look from here to here. So, okay, well, you're getting closer to the Earth, right? You're going towards the Earth. Makes sense. Earth's getting a little bigger. We're about to loop around. We're actually headed towards it. Mm-hmm. All right, so now we just left the moon. This is looking back at the moon. Has to be. Right?
Right.
Which can be shot from Earth. This is the side that we see from Earth. So there's no way to know. It would look exactly the same, supposedly, if you were leaving, as just zooming in from Earth. But anyway, so you're leaving the moon. And this is where it gets kind of weird. You're getting further away. That's not a ring. That's the window, supposedly. And now look at the Earth.
Slight perspective problem there, methinks.
This is in order. This is in correct order. So we just had this Earthrise, which means we're headed towards the Earth. We're going back home. We're going this way, towards this. And we haven't switched lenses. You don't see any switch of the lens or any shot that was done to clear the frame and start a new lens. You don't see that because they're still using the same lens. That's impossible. So basically what should be happening here is just like, here's the barn. If I walk closer to this barn and use the same lens, the barn's going to get bigger. But not on Apollo.
No, it shrinks to half its size.
Now look, so here's what's funny. So here's the moon size. Very next photos, here's the Earth. That's where we're headed, right? And then they look back at the moon, and look how small the moon is. And the Earth, what's going on here? Yeah. So how can you be this far away from the Earth and also this far away from the moon?
And have them be so totally out of perspective and size.
So small.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this isn't because it wasn't because this picture, like the barn, was done with a lens like this, and then they switched to another lens that could zoom in further and took that shot. No, this is all with the same lens. This doesn't make any sense at all. So, like I said, you go from going towards the moon, towards the Earth, and then...
On these pictures, do they actually show... Well, this is supposedly back in the 60s, obviously. So I'm sure there isn't any... There wouldn't be any metadata on anything like these, obviously, right?
No, not metadata, but if they saved it in Photoshop...
Yeah. Well, yeah. They didn't have Photoshop back then, but, they probably had something that was similar to it. That was for government use only, because if it's true that the government technology is 20, 30, 40, 50 years ahead of us, which in some things I believe it may be, other things I think no way, because they would be able to produce much better fakes. But I think that they probably did have something that they were using that was computer assisted as far as, these particular photographs.
Well, a lot of them is I don't know if you guys know anything about still life photography. A lot of still life photographers, they set up a stage in a room, and they'll usually use like a black paint background, or they'll use a blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show them. Here's what I think they did with a lot of these. Now, of course, they introduced artificial light into the scene. But just like all these photos, these are still lifes. There's a black background, which could be space, but it depends on what you're taking a picture of. But this is still life photography. I think a lot of these were done over a black background. And of course, you're going to have and see, there is noise. Like I was talking about earlier, the ones that they're supposedly releasing now don't have any noise. There is on this, and that's just because it was shot with film. But this could very easily be a black blanket. And this is an actual real globe, like a 3D physical, actual model they created. And they have like a light coming from over here, hitting this side to illuminate this, or they just made like half a globe. But either way, that's all they would have to do. And they would introduce some side lighting, supposedly coming from the sun and stuff. It would just be, just like in still life photography, they just block out all the light. But if they let all the light in from random light sources around the room, you would see pretty much the same thing. So I think it would have been that simple. They literally just have a black space area like this, and instead of like an apple, you would have your 3D Earth, just like the top of this apple was illuminated, but the bottom half is dark. Right. That would be your Earth. Would be the same thing.
Awesome.
And it would just and of course also from supposed low Earth orbit, which you could just capture from high altitude balloons, you could get the supposed leaving of Earth with a fisheye lens at 120,000 feet, and that would be the pictures of leaving the Earth.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep. Very good. This is outstanding. To give us these different perspectives, literally, on this, as well as how they're being put together, and just kind of a basic 101 course on photography and focal length and field of view and stuff like this. This is really helpful for people to be able to understand it, because not everybody is a photography whiz, and this is clearly one of your strengths that you're very good at in showing this, and you're doing a great job. Thanks for doing this for us. This is awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, we all have our different things, and this is why we're kind of wrapping it back up towards how the community needs to be different, but also unified in the idea that we're all making different kinds of videos. Even though I mainly focus on the photography and the images that are released by these space programs, and Russian Vids is focusing on psyops, and Rob Skiba is doing a lot of actual tests with balloons, and you have other people doing P900 tests with their zoom lenses. We're all doing different things, and one's not any more important or less important than the other.
Agreed. Yeah, we're putting together a composite, and even when we go into areas that are not necessarily agreed with, like we had on Devin Maggi last week. Obviously, there were some definite people that were naysayers to that, because they didn't want to hear anything about the occult. Where it's my particular perspective is that there is so much to be learned from the occult, and you and I talked about this a little bit last week, or last night, but there's so much to be learned about it, and people just need to be open-minded, and again, take what resonates, leave the rest behind. But all areas, there's all of these different things are definitely part of the bigger picture that we're trying to paint here and present to other people. So you're right, everybody has their strengths, and they need to be encouraged to show those strengths and do what they do rather than blasted for them,
Oh, and if anybody saw the 666, it's not because I'm a Satan worshiper. I was just joking around and saved it because it's a picture from NASA. So yeah. Not a shill, just letting you guys know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's because, by the way, this is from me pasting the Earth over a fake black background, which I added some little specks over here, and there's no like squares around the Earth. Just showing how simple it is to not have a box around the Earth. That's all I was doing here. So yeah.
Yep. Beautiful. So.
And I'll just go ahead and stop screen sharing so you can take over.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. And yeah, at some point, Victor Brewer is going to be stopping in, and yeah, let me reset up the share here real quick on this. I have to do all these crazy things because I'm still not quite used to OBS 100% yet. So
you need to give me a wrench.
Oh well, I can do that. Type something in the chat. I'll give you one.
All right. Yeah. Let me get my channel.
Yeah, this is going to be an exception to the rule because as far as the wrenches, after all the drama that happened last time, I left it to Cammie, and this is definitely Cammie's bailiwick, but I'll make this exception this time because not a problem.
I somehow have a wrench. If I go into an IPS live thing that he's doing, I have a wrench. I'm not sure how, but I do. So.
Well, you can't.
Somebody
can't be an IPS without a wrench. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's not because I'm his sidekick or anything like that. Just like if Mark Sargent shares a video of mine, and if you think Mark Sargent's a shill, it doesn't make me a shill.
Right. No, not at all.
And let me just share that link real quick.
Oopsie. Okay, go ahead and put that up. Good grief, what happened to this?
Oops.
There we go. All right, sorry guys. I think I'm back organized again. I just need to make sure everything comes up on the live feed. So anyway, before we get to Victor coming on, he should be here in the next 5 or 10 minutes, something like that. I guess I can go ahead and talk about a couple other things that I just wanted to point out here really quick. Unless, Archer, you have anything else that you want to share before Victor comes on? Or are you pretty much... You cool? Okay. All right.
Pretty good. Just would like more people to, and I'm perfectly fine being the one that does the majority of looking into the photos, but I would like more people to get into investigating these photos and read up on photo forensics and download some of the software like JPEG Snoop and really start to look into this because I feel like it's one of the main things that we need to sort of debunk or how they do, is how they do these images, and I think it's really important.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the more knowledge that we have on any of this, the better off that we all are. To be able to at least do a very basic photo forensics check or JPEG Snoop or anything that you're using, and of course there's all kinds of other CAN software as well that allows you to do forensic analysis on computer software, computer images, anything. So anyway, okay, so we are back up on our local screen share. And I'm going to share a couple other things here. This week, the Daily Mail, I'm sure a lot of people saw this. But the headline was Canadian Special Forces sniper kills an ISIS fighter from 2 miles away in the longest confirmed kill shot in history. Which, of course, is pretty remarkable. That's one heck of a shot. But the one thing that I thought was amazing in here is, we're always being told about how the snipers have to take into account Coriolis effect and, primarily Coriolis effect, along with wind direction. And I could see the wind direction. I actually got a sharpshooter ribbon in the Air Force with my M16. And I was a really good shot, and so I got some ribbons for it. And, there are things that you have to take into account. I wouldn't call myself an expert marksman by any means, even though I do have several guns like AR-15 and stuff. It's fun. It's a hobby. It's fun to go out and shoot and do things like that. But, let's see. So I'm looking for the part in here where it was talking about the... Oh, here it is. Okay, here it is. The Special Forces sniper fired a TAC-50 rifle from an elevated position. The sniper had to take into account the wind, distance, bullet velocity, and the curvature of the earth, but nothing about Coriolis. And I just thought that was pretty interesting. It's like that's a new one that they're talking about. The curvature of the earth has to be taken into account. But I think that probably what he's more taking into account is the vertical drop of the bullet, as it traverses that 11,319 feet. But pretty interesting anyway, to say the least on that. Did you see this at all, Jaron? It's been kind of going around the internet virally. The thing that really disturbs me about this is they make it seem like he's such a hero because he killed somebody from 2 miles away. So whatever.
No, I didn't see it, but no. And again, if you go to jaronism.com and the library section there, we've got the official sniper manual from the Air Force, and there's no mention of any curvature drop or curvature of Earth or Coriolis force.
Yeah, exactly. So the sniper, as IPS points out, he says the Canadian sniper was a curvert. I love that term, curvert. That's great. So anyway, just wanted to point that out because that was all over the place. And, not only are they glorifying bullshit about, I guess the curvature of the earth, they didn't mention Coriolis to their credit, but, just the fact that they're boasting that he made this kill shot 2 miles away. It's not exactly my cup of tea, but I was more interested in the lack of Coriolis being taken into account. So, going past that, there was one other thing, Richie from Boston, and again, Richie from Boston, I follow his channel, love his stuff. Most of it. I'm not crazy about the idea that apparently he came out with a hit piece on Andrew or Friend of Yahweh, but whatever. Like I said, everybody has that right to their opinion. But he came out and was interviewing this guy that did this Frankenskai's full-length documentary. And if you guys haven't seen this, this is absolutely the best chemtrail documentary that I have ever seen, and it's called Frankenskai's, and it's by Matt Landman channel. I'll put it in the show links afterwards, but this is really something that is absolutely eye-opening to a lot of people. I've had friends that I've been talking about chemtrails for years, and they just cannot get past the idea that how could they possibly do this with so many people would have to be in on it, the same old excuses all the time. And so I sent this to him recently, and I'm hoping that this one kind of knocks him upside the head and makes him see that we're not imagining these chemtrails, and there is a definite purpose behind them, and I think this really documents it well. So if you haven't seen it, Frankenskai's full-length documentary, it will be in the show notes afterwards. So, okay, so now I'm going to move on to, I wanted to highlight this guy. So what I'm showing now is the Seventh Day Truth Seeker channel, and this guy has been just fabulous in the community. His name is Rick, and he is, he works in the electronics industry, let's put it that way. I won't go into specifically what he does, but he works in the electronics industry. He's very tech savvy, incredibly sharp. And he, for the longest time, has been taking very choice cuts of Globebusters footage, when we happen to hit those rare gems, and he extracts them and he reposts them on his channel in kind of a condensed form, which is great, that he does this, because a lot of people say that, they don't have the time to watch a 3.5-4 hour presentation like we do a lot of the time. And so he has kind of cured that problem for us, and you can find all kinds of great Globebuster clips, as well as many other top content producers on his channel. He absolutely takes the cream of the crop and puts them together for us. But what I wanted to comment about with him today is, over the last several weeks, he has been doing a lot of experiments with these MEMS accelerometers. And he has had some fabulous success, and he's also had some not so much success on some of the things that he's been doing. He has done extensive tests, which I'm sure he'll be releasing a video on at some point very soon, with the MEMS accelerometers and the MEMS gyroscopes and stuff like that. But he recently contacted me, and Victor Brewer is going to be really, really happy to hear this when I tell him. But he has taken it upon himself he's already been in contact with Honeywell, and he's been in contact with this other company that I won't mention, just because I've already mentioned it before, and we're trying to not let them knock us down. Honeywell is being a little bit evasive, and I ran into that very same problem. So dealing with Honeywell corporate to actually go out and buy a ring laser gyro, they caught on, I think, probably to both me and him, in that we were probably going to try and use it to prove that the Earth didn't spin, and I haven't heard back from him since, and neither has he, as far as I know. However, there are other companies out there that not only rep for Honeywell that will sell it probably, but there are other mechanisms that are just as accurate as these ring laser gyros or fiber optic gyros. They are quite expensive. They are several $1,000s. They run $3,000 to $6,000 depending on what you get. But Rick has decided that he is aware that Victor Brewer was going to be buying one of these and doing the experiment with it. However, Victor Brewer, they did have some problem with one of their balloon launches, and rather than have Victor Brewer spend the $3,000 to $6,000 on a new ring laser gyro, which I've been pressing for a long time, is the smoking gun. This is going to kill the globe, absolutely. But so Seventh Day Truth Seeker Rick has opted to buy one himself with his own money. He's going to put out that $3,000 to $6,000, whatever it costs. He's going to put it up. They come with developers kits, the whole 9 yards. He's going to set it up, and he is going to prove once and for all, using the technology that is absolutely claimed by the mainstream to be able to detect the rotation in the Earth. And then it obviously would go without saying that he will also be able to show that we're not going over any curve either. So no motion, no curve. It's going to be great. So he's getting this himself, and once this comes out, really, there can be no rebuttal from the ballers. And what we're hoping is that when we use this piece of equipment, we show every bit of how it was done, and we put it out there for the public's view, and we say, okay, here it is, by the manufacturer's own specifications and wide acknowledgement that it is capable of detecting any motion of the Earth, curvature, motion, anything like that, angular motion. And then when we show clearly that there isn't any, and of course I'm assuming, because I don't believe that we will, boy will I be surprised if it does, but I don't think so. So I think that when it does, we're going to kind of get the attention of a lot of scientists and engineers, and they're going to go, whoa, 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 wait a minute. How is this possible? And I think this is going to be the thing that causes them to look at our model a lot closer, because now we are using a piece of equipment that is openly acknowledged by the mainstream to be able to do this, and in fact is in use by many corporations, airlines, and stuff like that for their very navigation of ships, planes, weapons, everything. And once it is shown that there is no motion by this device, I can only say, what are they going to come with next? But I don't really care what people like Sly Sparkane say or what Flat Earth Math says. What I'm interested in is getting the attention of other engineers and scientists that necessarily aren't hired to try and debunk this movement, for one, but will look at this with a critical eye. Hopefully they will be true scientists, and if not, we can certainly get this out to them through the community and have them take a look at this objectively and say, how can this be? And hopefully then encourage them to, if they work at a university, to try and replicate this experiment on the university's dime or themselves or whatever. But this is what we're shooting for. And I think Rick is an absolute hero for doing this. And at the same time, he's going to free up $3,000 to $6,000, something like that, for Victor Brewer to be able to go out and do some more of these experiments with the balloons. And of course, one thing that Victor Brewer and I were talking about recently, I told him about what I thought was going to be going on with the solar eclipse coming up in August, and how Dwayne Kellum is launching a balloon. Of course, we're going to be launching our balloon with daytime cameras, so we don't have to worry about this craziness going on with the nighttime cameras that I just got sick of, frankly. And honestly, and this, by the way, this is something else that I just want to bring up really quick too. For those of you that think Andrew or Friend of Yahweh is a shill, I want you to know that Andrew has a Sony A7 camera. Now this is the camera that has been acknowledged, that we researched, that we know has the specs to be able to photograph the stars. And he sent me a message and he said, I've got an A7 and I would be interested in letting you use it on your balloon to go ahead and do your experiment, and which is amazing. Now, if this guy is a shill, why on God's green earth would he be trying to facilitate us in every way, shape, and form? Putting forth a piece of equipment that costs $4,000, and possibly even have it lost. He's well aware of the risks. If he wasn't interested in helping this movement out, so I just wanted to point that out. That's just another thing. So anyway, this will give Victor the freedom to be able to launch a balloon on gimbals and look at the solar eclipse. We're hoping to catch some of these dark bodies that have been described as Rahu and Ketu that have been photographed before on chartered planes that were chartered for the very specific purpose to go up and photograph the eclipse. Of course, we got crap photographs from it because I think this was all a psyop in the first place. They just wanted to say they were going, but they didn't want to show any of the interesting thing. But then we have YouTubers like QNFI that were able to digitally enhance images that were out the window, and lo and behold, we can see these black bodies out there. This is exactly what I'm hoping that we can do. And so yeah, a lot of things that are going on here. And Victor, is that you?
Yes, it is.
All right. So did you hear what I just said about
I did. I've been listening. It's been awesome, man. You keep going.
I know. Isn't that awesome?
So let you talk.
So there you go. I mean, that saves you another 3 to 6, whatever.
Yeah, that would be huge. Now, let me ask you just to clarify. I'm assuming he has the A7S, correct?
I think it's an S, but I'm not 100% positive. He did say A7, but don't hold me to the S.
That's okay. Just to define the difference. So we've got two cameras. You've got the A7R, and you've got the A7S, and you've got the A7R Gen 2 and the A7S Gen 2. So I have the A7R, and the A7R is a 42 megapixel, which is actually really bad for. Well, it's not really bad. It's just not good for low light. It's not nearly as good as the A7S, which is explicitly a low light camera. It's only a 12 megapixel, but basically they've just reduced this. They've increased the size of the photoreceptors, and reduced the number of megapixels essentially. And just wanted to clarify that there's a difference there. And if he got an A7S, that's just incredible. That would be amazing because you'll absolutely see stars. And let me pull up a link really quick. There's a group that launched an A7S in Alaska, I think last year, and they did it to shoot high-altitude auroras, which is really interesting. They weren't affiliated with any sort of Earth shape studies or anything like that. They just were launching to get awesome pictures of the auroras. But anyway, yeah, if he's got an A7S, that's going to be amazing. But an A7R, unfortunately, wouldn't do much for us. That's the only thing that I wanted to clarify.
Okay. Well, I will clarify that with him for sure. But
but that's awesome. I mean, heck, to be willing to send. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not willing to send my A7R. My A7R is. I mean, it's just obviously when you run a business like, a media business, that's your bread and butter. And oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine losing that thing. I think I would throw up. That would be depressing. But we're 2 for 2 on balloon payload vessel recovery.
Yeah.
The second launch, though, the camera did tear loose. The bottom camera did. That was I don't know if we'd talked since then, Bob, but yeah, that was a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Our second.
Yeah, you told me about
launch.
it, but you haven't updated the users. And of course, I know you were on with Rob
Yeah.
Skiba last night, and I'm kind of playing that video you sent me this morning in the background. But go ahead and tell anybody if you want a screen share. Just let me know. By all means, we can do that. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
let everybody know what's going on here.
So yeah, the second balloon launch seemed to go really well. We really worked hard on getting an extra camera or two on board. So we were a little over 2 kilograms when we launched, and honestly, I mean, the loss of the camera was totally my fault. I mean, there's no one else to blame. I was up late and I was trying to replace the lens of another GoPro because the first GoPro that had gone to space essentially had died on us. And I was just frantically trying to replace another one, and I got it done. It was 1:30 or 2 a.m. But right before the camera crapped out was when I was going to put basically it's like my it's my CYA tools, my zip ties. I always zip tie things. There's a standard attachment method for gimbals on drones, and you don't need to zip tie them. But I always zip tie. If there's a space to zip tie, I always throw a couple extra zip ties. And on the first launch, we had zip ties on it, and it worked fine. We recovered it great. On the second one, you can see here, this is where the video is playing. This is when it was coming down. And it's a little hard to see, but it's up there. And Brandon and Josiah are running to get it. And I honestly, just the night before, because of a couple of things going wrong, I just forgot to put zip ties on the gimbal and lost the payload. So it was pretty depressing. But all of our tracking equipment worked good enough that we were literally able to get underneath the balloon as it descended. I mean, we were ready for this. We were there, ready, and so it's just it'll help us. All of these things helped us understand. A couple weak points. We had slightly too long leads on it. We definitely want swivels. We want, a box. We want ball bearing swivels between the parachute and the payload and the parachute and the balloon. That way, there's just almost no torsion on the neck of the balloon. And as you can see, I mean, the balloon, that's almost a zero wind day, and you can still see how it sits there and twists. But once the wind catches it, it really wants to twist. And the basket, obviously, is another counter rotating force, or it wants to rotate, and it just adds that torsion on the neck, which can cause the balloons to tear prematurely. So we definitely need to make sure we have basically swivels and a shorter lead, because the longer the lever arm, the more. This was the really long lever arm. Essentially, this was, I think, about 60 feet total, which was just too long, because you see there's more lead between the parachute there and the payload. And there's the gimbal, of course, and that's the first launch. I don't know if you could fast backwards right there, Bob. You can see the zip ties where it was zip tied. If you give it a second. You're good. Oh, yeah. There we go.
Right there's go. Okay.
So if you give it a second, and then you'll see. Pause it in like 3, 2. Let's see whenever he switches to the guy playing with the camera. Right there, pause. Okay. You see the zip ties that I have around the wood. See, there's those grommets are driven into the wood. And that's how you would attach it to a drone. But see, this is the previous launch, the first launch, where I had zip tied them as well, and that seemed to work great. But on the second launch, I just had, when I was about ready to install the zip ties, I had them laid out on the table, and the camera died, and that's where I went into overdrive and just ran into the other room and started pulling another GoPro and putting a new lens in it, and etc. And I just forgot to put those on. So that was the downfall of that mission. So next mission. Those are the things we're going to add. We're thinking about doing 3 cameras total on this one, and just doing a shorter range live transmission, because the live transmission was fun, and it helps us to know everything's going well. But we really don't need the transmission all the way to the top, and it just added a whole other dynamic that was more stress that we just didn't need.
Right.
I
have a couple questions about the live transmission. First of all, what was the equipment spec'd out? In other words, what was the transmit power from the balloon? I know you had that big Yagi on the ground, and do you know what the gain figure of that was and all that?
Yeah, it was a 14 dBi Yagi, and it was a 900 megahertz, 800 milliwatt transmitter on the balloon itself for the video. So it was just inside the ham band, and it was actually surprisingly legal. I didn't realize that it was, but it's legal. And I had my buddy cover it with his ham license. You know, he was there, and he was one of the videographers that day, so he just popped his ham tag on it, and I guess that makes it legal. He seems to know the rules pretty well.
It does.
But
yes.
That's what we did for the transmission. The next, yeah, right. That's what I was like. Okay, sure. So anyway, the next time, I think if we do a live transmission with a 900, which we still could, you know, I've got all the equipment for that. I mean, it all came down safely. Everything except for the GoPro and gimbal was lost, or I mean, it was saved. So this next launch, I kind of want to run with a patch antenna as opposed to the Yagi, because the Yagi was so directional. It was really, or even just run a diversity, you know, run 2 receivers side by side. And if we ran a diversity, you know, have the Yagi, but also have a patch antenna receiving as well, just for, I mean, it was just too hard to keep it on target without a tracker, you know, because you can purchase trackers and have them track the payloads, but then you're putting on onboard computers and stuff like that, and it's just a pain in the butt after, you know, once you get into that level of I mean, I may do it in the future, but right now, for our purposes, really, we need to just keep it simple and get good horizon footage. That's the goal: is get good horizon footage and recover it. You know? So, I'm probably going to do a 5.8 gigahertz transmitter because it's quite a bit lighter. And if I do that, we'll have about 5 to 7 miles max, you know, transmission, and we'll be able to make sure that everything's going well. And as long as everything's going well, you know, it's fine once it cuts out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to worry about it.
So I'm sorry.
Now,
so how high did the actual balloon go before the live feed died?
It was just over 91,000 feet before we couldn't get any more live feed. It was actually pretty doggone high. It wasn't as high as I wanted, and that was what was frustrating, is because I had people telling me, "Oh yeah, you'll get all the way to the top," but you know, this was my first venture into super long distance, you know, FPV. I've done plenty of FPV in the past,
right?
You know, doing drone work the past 5 years, but yeah, this was
the reason I'm interested in it is, you know, because I have oftentimes given examples, real world examples of transmission powers, gain, and line of sight conditions. Now, you say you had it almost up to 100,000 feet. You had a 14 dBi, dB over isotropic gain antenna, and you're putting out about 1 watt from the balloon, right? So, in that neighborhood, and yet still you weren't able to get 100% coverage. And even on the way up, there were spots and stuff like that. There were noise.
Oh yeah, it was cutting out.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's, you know, if it was NASA, you know, they would say that they would be able to use that low power and transmit, 400 AU. But, you know, the reason they tell us that we can't do that on the Earth is because of the curvature, which of course is nonsense. That's why I'm interested in, you know, what your specs were of your transmit and receive equipment, you know, for this particular launch. Because even, I mean, that's not bad, but even at that, you would have thought, you know, using, you know, NASA's logic that you should have had an absolute full power signal the whole way up, being directly line of sight with a Yagi antenna pointed right at it, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, honestly, this is something that I had thought about for a while. I wonder, you know, people talk about, you know, aluminum oxide and barium being sprayed in the atmosphere, and I just wonder how much that air interference that has in general for radio transmission over long distances, you know, line of sight, you know, straight up into the atmosphere, because all that's radio reflective, you know, all that chaff. Right. And so the question is, and we didn't have, honestly, it was a fairly clear day. I mean, it was hazy, but it was clear, you know, there weren't many clouds. And I didn't see, I mean, like, if you look in that video, I don't see nigh on a single chemtrail. You know what I mean? Like, you can go through the whole footage. There were very few chemtrails on the first launch. Now, the second launch, we did have Let me pull up. We did have a camera facing up, but it was a 3. So this is a word of warning for people using GoPro Hero 3s blacks. One of the problems with those, there's a bug, to my understanding, where if you plug in and it's already charged up to full power, it won't start drawing immediately after the battery starts dropping. It doesn't draw, period. It just lets it go dead. It doesn't begin. I don't know how that mechanism functions, Bob. You would know better than I do. But for some reason, it will not start drawing power. So we lost power at about 40 minutes in on the GoPro 3, which, the first time we used the GoPro Hero 4, and it worked great. We had it, all the way up and part of the way down, and the only reason it cut out was because the memory card filled up, and it was a 64 gig.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm wondering, or what my takeaway from that is, just don't use Hero 3s, because for some reason, unless you start with it like half charged. If you start with it half charged and you go up, it should function all the way up. But I had charged them completely the night before, and it just did not start charging once I plugged it in, and I didn't realize that.
Same thing happened at the GoPro Hero 5 that we sent up on Dwayne's balloon. It was plugged into an external battery, and when the original battery, when the thing died the first time, it just died and never drew any power off.
Exactly. It's super frustrating. So my suggestion to all these people launching balloons, yourselves and anyone else, is start with like a 3/4 or a 2/3 charged battery, so it is charging. You know what I mean? Don't worry about the charge, because you want it running off of that external. I don't know what size external you used, but I was using a 5100 milliamp hour 3S, so plenty of watt hours to keep that thing going for 4 hours, maybe 5, along with all the other electronic equipment. I mean, it was plenty of juice, because you're running 5. What is it? I forget the milliamp hour draw on a GoPro, but it's 5 volt.
Mm-hmm.
And so it being 5 volt, that's nothing. You know what I mean? Especially on a 11 volt battery, with 5100 milliamp hours. So it was that. There was incredibly frustrating. So I've got 3 Hero 4s left in the office, and don't tell my business partner I'm probably going to use them all. So
that's good.
I'm going to take all the Hero 4s and send them up into space, and they'll all be space GoPros.
Awesome. So on the eclipse coming up. Oh, I was just going to say, first of all, I guess let us know a little bit more what you have coming up. If you're going to do, since you lost one of the cameras, I'm guessing that you're going to do another launch, and then also I'm interested in hearing, what you've thought about possibly sending up a balloon during the eclipse.
Yeah, I love both ideas, honestly. So we're actually doing a launch, our third and last launch for at least this month and the month of July. So we're doing a launch on Wednesday, and Rob's coming up, and they're all coming back out. I was really surprised and glad that they were willing to come back out, and Rob's gonna bring Rick, and Rick. Well, actually, they're coming separate, but they're super stoked to get back out and see this launch.
I may have to go out. I mean, this looks like you guys had a ball.
We did. It was pretty doggone fun. I'm not gonna lie. So we had a blast. Ate some great Vietnamese food. I found another Mexican joint. So it's a lot of fun when we all get together. And this is my buddy's. He runs a light sport aircraft company called Heaven Bound Aviation, and he let us use his field and hangar and all that jazz. You can see the aircraft there, and of course the back of my hairy neck, my hairy Scottish neck. So that's out there for the whole world to see. But anyway, we had a lot of fun. It was a blast, and it's addicting. Realistically, like the balloons, you guys know better than I. You guys started before I did. They're super addicting.
Well, I don't know.
So,
I mean, we still have yet to launch one successfully. We've only launched the one, and we had that little navigational tracker error problem that it quit.
Yeah.
But hopefully the second one's going to do a lot better, because we have doubled up on the tracking, and so I'm staying optimistic about it. But I can hardly wait to do it.
I mean, honestly, like, we thought we lost the first one. You know how it is. I mean, it just our stomach just dropped when the
sickening feeling.
Yeah, it's a sickening feeling. On the first one, it was so nerve-wracking because it cut out at 6,900 feet for the APRS tracker, and when we got out there looking for it, I know I'm recapping, and I'm sorry, but
that's okay.
We were out there and we're looking around, and I'm like, okay, my other tracker that hadn't been working apparently turned on when the parachute opened, and I had a ping where the parachute opened and a ping where it had landed, and it was a miracle. Honestly, I couldn't believe we found it. But this second launch, we had 3 trackers in it. There's no way we were losing the box.
Yeah, that's a
now,
little
the camera was another
concerning.
story.
That's a little concerning to me that it was also your APRS tracker that failed, because that's what failed with us. So I'm thinking maybe they aren't such a good idea. Did you use the same one we did from High Altitude Science?
No, we actually used it from Traxor, and the thing is, this is what the guy. Honestly, I love Traxor thus far. I wanted to get it from High Altitude Science. It's just they've been out of stock for so long. I wasn't able to get it from them in time. So I found this guy at Traxor, and he's been awesome. I mean, I called him up at 11 p.m., and he's just there. And he has helped me through everything. Like, he told me he's like, hey, there's a bug, don't launch yet. I'm writing a software fix. He helped me the night before. Now, what he explained to me is that these things are so low wattage, or, you can't get a signal until you can't get a signal to hit one of the antennas until you get up decent altitude. Right. Now, on the second launch, we used the exact same transmitter, and it literally was pinging on the ground. We were getting great reception, and it worked the whole way up and down. I think our last ping on descent was from 1,200 feet, and it was in the middle of nowhere. So I was really happy with that. But the first launch, we had blown 85 miles east of us, and there really weren't many antennas out there. And it was getting repeated out of Indiana, even as far as Indiana. I mean, like, it was a long ways out that we were getting towers picking us up. So it was pretty cool. I really liked seeing that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and as far as the Eclipse launch, I would absolutely love to do an Eclipse launch. Now, the question is big. You guys are thinking about this A7S, and if there's an A7S and we can all launch it, I'll mock up the payload. I mean, I'll cut it out for you guys. We'll get it set up, and we can all launch that. That would be a lot of fun. I just want to make sure we don't launch an A7R, because an A7R really won't give us what we need. And actually, let me screen share with you guys really quick so I can show you what I'm talking about, and you'll like this.
Okay, hang on.
How do I do that again?
You just hit your plus button and then go share screens.
Thank you. All right, share.
So let me stop sharing, and then I have to go to full screen.
All right, I'm going to start sharing, and I will pull up. And sorry if it's lagging.
No problem. You're presenting.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to open up Premiere, and I'm going to show you a little bit from our Moonlight test, because we had both an A7R and an A7S running.
Okay. And one thing I want to say really quick before that is it's interesting because the APRS, we ran into the same thing, and we weren't getting a signal on the ground. That was when we tested it at my house before we went out to actually launch the balloon. On the ground it was receiving, but here we were in the middle of the city. But when we were out there, we couldn't get it to track, and then it's like, well, it may have to go up 100 feet or a couple hundred feet before it actually hits, in other words, one of these APRS transmitters. And so we decided to go ahead and say, all right, let's trust it. And it did. As soon as we released it, it went up a couple hundred feet, and bing, it showed up online. But the interesting thing is the manufacturer said that those things will actually track to over 200,000 feet guaranteed, which I think is extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, it is too, and that's one of the interesting things. Bob, I guess I didn't mean to put some misinformation out there, but I did, and I want to correct myself. So I was talking about 90% of GPS not functioning above 63,000 feet, and that is my understanding. Is still most GPS don't function above that. However, the APRS trackers have GPS antennas on them that are reading their position, and then that's just being relayed via ham radio. So see, I originally thought that they were triangulating, but this guy that sent us ours, he explained to me, he's like, hey, this is a little GPS antenna I install. I soldered it on there, and bam, and it basically the information is repeated via ham. So
weird because I have a different understanding of that. I mean, the way I understood it is that it is being triangulated. However, the places that are where the APRS ground stations are at, those are using GPS data to actually, with between them and the other APRS sites to do the triangulating on the. So I mean, that's completely different than the way I understood it. That's bizarre.
Yeah, see that's fascinating. Yeah, I don't understand it either, and it was bizarre to hear that because I thought it was triangulating. That was my understanding, and so I'm not quite sure what it's doing. Let's just put it that way. At this point, I don't know what it does.
As long as we recover our payload, that's all that matters.
Right.
Right.
Let me pull up the first test really quick. So here's the A7S. Let's see. Let's see. Let me pull up this one. Actually, let's do this one. So I don't know how easy this is going to be for you guys to see, or if you will be able to see it. Give it
Okay, well, we can see everything in your
my
Premiere
computer. There we go. All right, so this is a completely unlit night, and this is the A7S. Oh, there's a sneak preview there. That's concentrated moonlight right there. Isn't that cool?
That is.
So that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. That concentrated moonlight. So let's go back here. So this is all shot with the A7S. You see monitors really get blown out easily because your ISO's really high. So hold on, let me see. I'm just looking for some stars. So that was our certified thermographer there. He was a cool dude.
Was that
but you can
David, or was that his name, or he's not the guy in Denver, was he?
No. He's a certified thermographer that we hired to come out there and just kind of certify what we were doing was correct with the thermal camera.
Okay.
Hold on, let's see. This is not the one I wanted. I wanted the aerial. Let's see, is this it? This may be it. So you can see there. I don't know if you can see right there. All the stars it's picking up.
Absolutely, I can see
You
Orion's
see that?
belt
I mean,
perfectly.
This is. Yep. Exactly. And it's just beautiful, and I'm very impressed. And that's all video, and this is on a drone. So give it a second. That's looking at the moonlight there, and I haven't. There's no color correction or anything done on this yet, or contrast increase, but it really does a good job of picking up light where there's almost none, or very little, and that's cool right there. See that's the moon shadow of our large drone.
Wow.
Do you see it down there in the?
Yep.
So the neighbors, needless to say, the neighbors were kind of freaked out by us out there at night with these obelisks of shadow casters that we built, and some huge drones and thermal cameras and that sort of thing. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. And I'll show you the A7R real quick. The A7R. Wouldn't you see that? Let's see. A7R video was not very good. I mean, it was very hard to see. I don't know where it is. Okay, this is A7R Ben. We shot a lot. Come on.
Yeah, you have a ton of video. That's good though.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it really is. So you'll see the amount of noise. So I think those are stars in the background there. You can see, but they're really weird colored. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Okay, so you can barely see the stars. You can still see them, but this is A7R.
Yeah, I can see Orion's belt.
Still like that.
And yeah, absolutely. See, and this
it's
is
not
the
quite
thing.
as.
We were able to see stuff like this with the those low light cameras, the cheapies that we bought, from the ground. But we discovered really quick that when if it was like in a neighborhood where there were other light sources, it would see the stars beautifully. But as soon as you went out to some area that was completely dark and it didn't have any other light to pick up on, that it went almost into total noise. And that's why we decided to punt that. But even then, the biggest problem that we had was with our DVRs not going over 30 minutes. So yeah,
that's a big problem. It really is. The A7S, and honestly, let me see if we can find this because this is an important resource. Oh, they're blown. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. Guys, they only got to 91,000 feet. It's not that high, honestly. I mean, it's high, but I would really want to go higher than that. Like, it would be awesome. Now, this is, I don't know if this is a shot from them.
Oh, during the day, okay. I actually have some footage from an A7 at night, which, you know, like I said, you could definitely see the stars at, the balloon popped at 89,000 feet, but, you know, even before that, you could see the stars getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. So I'm thinking now maybe 110,000 feet might be our magic number. I don't know. I'm guessing, but...
It's interesting. They launched in like over the near the bay. I would be nervous as all get out to launch near the ocean. That is just, oh my goodness, that's some guts there. Now, my understanding is some guys did it in Alaska too, because this seems like all daytime stuff. The guys did it in Alaska. I think this might be it to shoot the auroras. Yeah, this is it. I haven't watched this video, honestly. I've just read a little bit about it, but they, you know, f1.4, and this is a good one for us to kind of study, because setting the A7 up or A7S up is, you know, it's not an easy feat. There's a lot of moving parts, you know, especially with I'm wondering why they had in the external recorder. I'm wondering if it's not the A7S Mark II, because the A7S Mark II, actually, I know why they're using the external recorder. It's just because what you were just talking about. The A7S internally doesn't shoot more than half hour. So I wonder, at least that's my understanding. Yeah. I wonder if that's why they did that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious.
But
what kind of
yeah, it's
DVR
really
they were
fascinating
using.
how they did it.
Because
exactly.
You know, that was our.
But yeah, I'm wondering what they're.
You wonder.
So they only went to 78,000 feet on that one. Their max altitude was only 78,000 feet on this one, and I wonder what their total weight was. Honestly, does it say?
I don't see
it. That's some cool footage, though. Yeah, that is really cool. Can you see? Yeah. That is just.
Yep, we see it in high def.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So anyway, that's another thing that, I mean, man, that's so cool. But see, this whole spinning thing, that drives me nuts. I mean, people don't put thought into how to stabilize the payload, because you just get fleeting glances of the things you want to see. And let me pull that up really quick. Well, maybe I showed you that last time, where the I did last time. The refresh rate of the camera, you know, was far exceeded by the rotation of the balloon in free fall, or the payload in free fall. And you just saw, you know, we saw the inverted Earth, we saw the, you know, globe Earth, we saw all the different Earths in disjointed pictures, because, you know, it's just fluctuating so quickly that the CMOS sensor can't keep up with it. But that's cool. You can see Orion there. Oh, that is cool.
Awesome.
That's too cool. So anyway, that's the gist of it. This Wednesday, we're going to be live streaming on the Explosive Truth, at least the experience on the ground, if not some of the experience in the air. And who knows, I may grab another patch antenna and really try it with diversity again to get a live stream down, just for fun and interaction. You know, I want people to see that we love doing this. You know, I really do enjoy this, like, immensely. And so,
just
like, one of the things I don't know if you heard. But, yeah.
If you were to stabilize the payload, like using a gyroscope or something like that, wouldn't that take a relatively heavy gyro, or how would you stabilize that to keep it from doing that?
So yeah, there's a couple methods that I've learned thus far in kind of studying this. A gyro is too heavy, like an actual physical gyro. Now, an electronic gyro, electronic gyro on a gimbal for a GoPro is very efficient, you know. But once you start to use these Sony cameras, I mean, the payload is so heavy at that point, it's really hard to manage on a balloon. So what you would really have to do with this is you'd have to go with all stabilization of the actual payload box itself. And that involves, there's a guy named Daryl Hedges. He probably has no idea why he's suddenly gotten so many views over the past few days, but I've been putting him out there. And he does a ton of studies on how to stabilize the actual payload itself with fins.
Yeah,
different
you
fin
used
structures.
fins on the first one, didn't you?
Yeah. And the fins worked really well, and I didn't realize how well until we ditched the fins on the second. and we were like, okay, let's just see, what happens if we just ditch the fins. And it was way worse. The fins were amazing. The fins helped a lot, especially to keep because your acceleration upwards, if you use a good acceleration rate for a balloon, the ideal acceleration rate for balloons is between 5.5 meters a second and 6 meters a second. So, you basically have to gauge your balloon size and your acceleration, or your lift per cubic foot of helium or hydrogen, and then you got to calculate your payload, your total weight with your parachute, and then you figure out your ascent rate, and it works really good. I mean, we got 113,000 feet the first time, which was okay. The second time, and that was very underfilled. The second time we filled it up a little more. We were probably hitting 5.3 meters per second, and we got 118,000 feet. And then I called the manufacturer, and he's like, "Hey, people are overfilling them a little bit and getting close to 6, and they're getting 127,000 feet with a similar size payload."
Wow.
So that's what I'm hoping for this next time is somewhere in there. But as long as we break 120, I'll be happy.
Yeah, were you a little nervous running hydrogen instead of helium?
I was pretty nervous, honestly. We all took our shoes off to be grounded. We all wore latex gloves. I wasn't nervous initially because we really thought it out and planned it out. But as soon as I pulled the balloon out of the plastic bag, I'm a hairy guy. All the hairs on my arms stood up like from static, and we hadn't. And I was just like, holy cow, we got to make sure we're grounded for this. And so we got grounded, and everybody.
Incident.
You really don't. You really, really don't. The flaming latex, the flaming latex. But yeah, so it was nerve-wracking. But honestly, as long as you stay grounded, and as long as you purge your line before you start filling your balloon, your ratio shouldn't, especially after 3 minutes or 4 minutes of filling, your ratio of air to hydrogen in your balloon is such that you shouldn't have even 4%. And 4% that's like the minimum ratio required for combustion is you have to have at least 4% oxygen and 96% hydrogen to get a combustion. But if it's less than that, if it's 2% oxygen, it supposedly won't combust. So that's where we were really careful. We purged the line. We didn't try to pull the balloon apart initially or anything. And we got a very tight fitting. I built a fixture, and I'll take photos of that too. It's actually kind of cool. It's very similar to the filler that they have on High Altitude Science Site, but I built it out of PVC for a 5 centimeter nozzle because the 3,000 gram balloons are 5 centimeter nozzles as opposed to 3. So I just built one out of PVC. I think it was 1.5 inch PVC or something like that, and that was the interior diameter. The exterior diameter fitted perfectly in this 5 centimeter opening for the balloon, and we just we zip tied it and taped it off right there because it's a real thick rubber, and filled it, and it seemed fairly safe. I mean, we didn't really have any scares or anything like that after we grounded ourselves. So
right, that's awesome.
Big things.
So
ground and fill,
We have a guy in the chat, David Gordon, who's asking why not helium, and I think.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. As I say, the answer to that is money, right? It's the cost of hydrogen is much cheaper.
Money and efficiency, actually. Hydrogen is 8% more efficient over helium, and so you do get quite a bit more lift. It's actually, as far as the actual weight of the gas, it's actually half the weight. I mean, that. It's half the weight of helium, half the physical weight. Now, I don't understand exactly why that doesn't equate to a 50% more efficient launch, but it supposedly only equates to between an 8 and 10% more efficiency. And so we went with that because we wanted to get higher, and the price, we paid a little over $200 a tank, which is a screaming deal for helium on the first launch. And the second launch, we're like, okay, we want to get higher. Let's just go with hydrogen, and we paid $87 a tank, and we only needed one. Right. So we needed two. We actually did end up using almost 2 helium tanks in the first one, and we used 1 hydrogen, and it was fine.
Yeah, and I think helium is so damn expensive because NASA's using it all up.
It's true. That is very true. NASA and the government, they're the largest consumers of helium, and it's been government controlled ever since 1942 or whatever the Second World War really kicked in.
Yep.
Which is I wonder if they used it much in the First World War. I'm assuming they did. I mean, that was when dirigibles were a big hit for.
Yeah, probably.
I'm wondering if it's been
I love
controlled
that they
since
call
then.
rocket launches are liftoff.
Liftoffs.
Wonder why.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been really interesting and a really huge learning experience. Just figuring out how much goes into one of these balloon launches. Before I was exact same as everybody else. I thought, just tie a string on it, let it go. Oh my goodness, there's so much planning that goes into this, like to really make it successful. And so that's where I'm trying to give people. I saw when I was first logged in, you guys had the Insta360 Pro pulled up, and I'm really working those guys, trying to get them to give me one. They're expensive, but I want to send one of those up so bad. I know the chief marketing director for the Americas. His name is Gene Cow, and he's a really nice guy. And he's been working at trying to get us a free one too for a little while. And they obviously want a marketing advantage with that. They want to be able to show that video as well, which I wouldn't have any problem with if they gave us one. So I'm really trying to get them, because I explained to them, these launches, the balloon costs $395, right? The payload. The last payload, everything I sent up, and it was almost $3,000 worth of equipment going up, just floating away, And we lost close to $1,000, with a $200 GoPro lens, a $400 GoPro, a $167 gimbal, and I mean, it was like $750 for that just being torn off, plus 128 gig SD card, and plus the footage. That's a pretty quick way to lose $1,000.
Yep.
I mean, it's pretty fast, and then not including all the stuff that was on board, the 900 megahertz transmitter, which isn't that bad, but the 433 is more expensive. The Dragon Link setup for control, we had a 433 on board, plus the $200 APRS tracker, plus the $200 and some odd spot tracker. I mean, there's a lot of equipment in there. It's kind of ridiculous how much these things cost if you want to do them
really
right.
Is. They are far beyond little toys and stuff, and yeah, that's why we were so sick when we lost the first one. Is because it represented nearly $2,000 worth of stuff, and all the work that went into
hard
it.
work.
And,
all the hours.
Yep.
It's so frustrating. So yeah, I'd love to see you guys. If where are you at again, Bob? I forget. I always forget.
In Denver.
Man, yeah, I wish you weren't so far away. It would be fun to have you here on Wednesday. But we're launching on Wednesday. We'll be live broadcasting on our channel. I'm sure Rob and Rick will both be live as well. And channel's The Explosive Truth, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put a note in the show notes so that people can go over to your channel and watch it. And somebody was broadcasting it on Facebook as well, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have a Facebook. We don't have hardly any following on Facebook, so I mean, you can follow us on there. That'd be awesome. But we will be broadcasting on Facebook, and that was last time. It was Rick and Rob. They were champions, man. They are seriously level 17 knight elf mage master of running their Facebook lives. I was amazed by that. So that was a lesson learned there. We were like, hey, we gotta step this up if we want to get this media out to people. You know what I mean? If we really want people to see what we're doing, understand that we're sincerely searching for the shape of the Earth, and trying to understand what it looks like, Mm-hmm. So, and the laser test is coming up quick. I am excited about this laser test. I am really, really excited about it because we're gonna get this. They don't know what they're lending it out for, honestly. The university doesn't. I won't name the university so they don't just take it away.
Somebody doesn't call them and say, hey, they're going to try and prove flat Earth with it. Because somebody will. Somebody will.
Yes. No, I know. It's someone would call it and basically mention an association, and then there's no way we'd be able to use it because it doesn't matter whether you're, globe Earth or flat earther, you're guilty by association. With any sort of hey,
that's exactly what science should be.
Let's see what the Earth looks like. Let's see what the shape is.
Yeah, that's exactly what science should be.
Exactly.
Right? It's trying to do something to prove, and you're going to try and stop it. No, don't let them borrow that laser. They're going to try and prove that. Well, then you don't care about science. You just care about keeping whatever currently the belief is.
The status quo.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest problem I have with evolution and evolutionary dogma. You know what I mean? For lack of a better term. I mean, there's just so much. I used to do carbon dating at OU when I was younger. We would go there and we would basically work with professors who didn't know we were creationists, and we would bring in samples. We had a specific method we followed, like the method to collect them. We would bring them in, and we would hand them off, and we'd say, "Hey, can you just date this stuff for us?" And we'd do a lot of tree coring samples, and people can say contamination all day long, but we followed the correct methods to gather this stuff and hand it off, and it was just so funny the way the dates would just come back, and they had no problem. They didn't know what we were doing it for. We would hand it off to them, and they'd say, "Oh, yeah, this is 167,000 years. 1.3 million. 43,000." I mean, the dates were just all over the place, and they were just tree rings from the same tree. We would extract them and hand them off for carbon dating, and there was just zero consistency. I mean, zero, and that's one of those things that's a really good example of dogma and not understanding basic logic, where with carbon dating, it's really how long has the candle been burning question. You know what I mean? And you really don't have any way of knowing. There's no way to prove how much C14 was in there to begin with. Just radiometric dating in general is a chicken and the egg problem, and so that's what's so frustrating for me is whether it be lead plutonium or plutonium lead or potassium argon, any of these methods, it's all a chicken and the egg problem, and people don't realize that they're just saying, "Oh yeah, it's this old for sure." Absolutely, and you have no idea what you're talking about, if you disagree. And that's just a great example of dogma right there.
Yep. Absolutely.
But anyway.
All right, man.
All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you having me on. It's always a blast to talk to you guys. And if anybody that's wanted to come out and explore the shape of the Earth with us, feel free to come.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right, Victor. Well, thanks so much for coming on, and we'll be following your work with great interest, and hope to hook up with you someday.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. We'll see you later. All right. Beautiful. So I think Archer also bowed out, right? Because he probably had to go to work. Archer, you're not still here, are you?
No, he said he had to go to work.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, that's cool. Sorry we didn't say goodbye to him, but he'll probably be back on another show because he always has good things to contribute, and we definitely appreciate him being on. So that pretty much wraps it up for me. Jaron, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to close it down. Do you have anything you want to plug or anything before we kind of dismiss the show for a few weeks?
No, just keep watching me on my channel. I'll be going live a lot, and I have a video coming out to address Darren Nesbitt's video and a couple other things going on. So keep watching. And also, I'm getting close to finishing the Titanic video. So I know I've been talking about that a while. Had some interesting things happen in that whole research, and talked to a couple guys that have been doing research on it for 10, 15, 20 years. So was able to get some more knowledge and some more understanding of what happened there. And so those will all be coming soon.
Beautiful. All right. So, and as for me, interesting note, Cammie just brought up a text from John Vanuck that was kind of addressing everybody in the Fort Collins group. And this is interesting, and I don't even know what to think about this, but the note said something essentially like this, is that the Denver Post is now going to be sending out yet another reporter to cover this. Now, I don't know if that means that something happened to Graham, the original reporter, or what. But it's kind of bizarre that they're going to be sending out somebody else to cover this, whether or not they're going to be working together, or if this guy is much more of a hardcore skeptic. Maybe the reporter didn't write what they wanted him to write. I don't know. Pure speculation at this point. But the fact is apparently that they're going to be sending out somebody else.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So, well, for whatever that means. All right, guys. Well, so when we come back, I will be streaming from Maui, and we'll have our show there, and I will have the results of my experiment, both with the gyroscope and the accelerometers. Hopefully we'll have some good news as far as Rick being able to get a hold of either the fiber optic gyro or the ring laser gyro, because, like I've said many times before, to me, we do this and it's over. It's over. goodbye. You know, I mean, it just that is our smoking gun. You know, not that I don't think that any other gyro experiment before was also just as legitimate, but this is something that, you know, they simply will have no rebuttal, like you have restrictive gimbals or restrictive bearings or whatever. It's like, no, sorry, none of that exists anymore. It's openly acknowledged. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm also really happy that that's going to free up several $1,000s for Victor Brewer to be able to get some more outstanding experiments done. So good things on the horizon, guys, but I really want to take a few weeks off because I really want to go camping. I haven't gone in quite a while, and absolutely love the Colorado mountains. If you guys have never been, they're fabulous. So that's one of the things that we're definitely going to be doing over the next month before we go to Hawaii, and then we will be back from Maui. So until then, I guess that's about all I have, and we'll get out of here. And thanks everybody for joining us. We will be seeing you soon. So don't lie to each other. Be good to each other. And I think I just did that backwards. Open your mind. There's truth inside. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.